Oh, my people. My people. How are you? How are you guys? How are you guys? How are you guys? Hey, Nibo. Hey, there's been so much going on. Yeah. Um, Mbali says that she has kafurar. Charlie Kirk gets gunned down. A Native American Indian man gets decapitated by a white nationalist, white supremacist, so to say, aka a Nazi. South Africa signs into law the bill that says a man can take a woman's surname. What's the end goal? What's the end game? I thought perhaps we need to go back to be able to understand how we get to a point where we have Mbali dancing for the master. Because what Mbali was doing is not new, neither is it unique. What Mbali was doing was not new, neither was it unique. The taking of surnames of women, I think I discussed it in a live I did 2 days ago. Because people seem to think that it's women empowerment and all that. It has nothing to do with women, that thing. It's for men. It's designed for men to benefit once more. It's got nothing to do with women. They couldn't give a damn. The people who signed those things into law, a lot of them are abusers of women themselves. So we should not be confused, guys. Also, it's not a command. It's not an order. There's no commander-in-chief who gave an order for people to take women's surname. Which means the people who are going to take the surnames are the people who want to take the surnames. Which means the people who are going to take the surnames are the people who are going to gain something from taking the women's surnames. That's very important. That is very important. Who wants to take a South African surname? Now, you should ask yourself that question. Who stands to benefit from taking a South African surname? Now, think about it. If I can get myself to a point of being indistinguishable from a South African in terms of looks, and if I can get to a point of marrying a South African woman and taking her surname, and if I can get to a point of then divorcing that woman but keeping the surname, then marrying a woman from where I'm from and giving her that South African surname, basically, myself and my new wife both have a South African surname, and all our kids will have a South African surname. And then I can easily just serve in government. Although I'm not South African, you can't distinguish me physically, but I have a South African surname now, and I can run your universities for you. I can run your banks for you. I can run your government departments right under your noses. Once again, you are the biggest fools. So you need to think about it from that perspective. The people who pass the laws, they're not thinking about the guy in Mamelodi. They're not thinking about the girl who's getting raped right now in Tembisa, the girl who got unalive last night in Soshanguve. They don't give a damn about that. So it's got nothing to do with women empowerment, and it's a political tool. It is an absolutely political tool. People are going to take the surnames. ANC is going to gain more votes. It's very simple. That's it. But not only gain more votes, but more people are going to serve in government who are not supposed to serve in government. That is going to happen. I mean, it's already happening. But we can distinguish it right now. It's going to get to a point where it's not distinguishable. Your deans of faculty, your heads of departments at universities, I promise you, you are going to cry. I promise you. Now, I want to talk about white supremacy. I want to talk about Christian nationalism. I want to talk about fascism. I want to talk about Nazism. I want to talk about the crux, the fulcrum of modern oppression and modern slavery. That's the topic of today. I want to help people understand. I want to help people understand how we got to where we are and the role that religion has had. Because the whole thing of Charlie Kirk, the moron who got murdered by his own people, who somehow think that he's a bit more mild. There's been an alleged now proposition that Charlie Kirk was actually murdered by the extreme right, who are his own people. He's also in the extreme right. But he seems to believe in the electoral system. He seems to believe in discourse and debate. But within his own people, there are those who don't believe in discourse and debate. There are those who believe that the world needs to burn so that white supremacy can rise again from the ashes. So those who believe that felt like he's a liability now, He's a liability. Anyway, the whole thing with Charlie Kirk, for me, seeing so many black native South Africans crying over Charlie Kirk, made me realize how far off our people are, how deluded, utterly deluded they are. They don't have a clue how things work in reality. It made me realize that if the people who are alive now in South Africa were alive in the days of Hendrik Verwoerd, if they were alive in the days of BJ Foster, they would have actually mourned the death of Verwoerd. They would have mourned the death of BJ Foster. They would have mourned the death of Botha. Because Charlie Kirk and John Foster stand for the same thing. Charlie Kirk and the Führer, Hitler, who murdered many black people, by the way, stand for the exact same thing. Charlie Kirk and the Italian fascists stand for the exact same thing. Nazism, apartheid, or Christian nationalism, which is the official name of apartheid. Apartheid is actually a word that came with the opposition. It came almost with the opposition. The people who really designed apartheid never viewed it as apartheid. They called it Christian nationalism. That's how they used to articulate it. In Germany, Hitler called it National Socialism. National, Nazi, means national. It's National Socialism. That's what he called it. In Italy, it was called Fascism. It's the exact same thing. And it comes from the church. Apartheid comes from the church. Nazism comes from the church. Fascism comes from the church. And white supremacy comes from the church. So Charlie Kirk, being a man of God, and you black South Africans crying for him, is telling of the success of the project of the church. And we'll go through it. Some time ago, I did a live with Brother Lee Makara. I was featured in his channel. And I showed you guys how the Spanish Inquisition, the Inquisition of Spain and Portugal, the Inquisition of Spain and Portugal, how it was the church that actually started it, unaliving people, infidels, people who are not Christians. In fact, the church is the one that said the Portuguese must enslave perpetually. Do you understand? Perpetual slavery. That's what the church said in a book. Let me see what the book is called. Let me just see what the book is called. It's called the Romanus Pontifex by Papa Niccolo V. Pope Nicol V, or Pope Nicholas. The book is called the Romanus Pontifex, the Roman Pontiff. It was written in 1452. It was a book that said Portuguese in Africa must enslave everyone who's not Christian perpetually, which means forever. That is to say, even the children of those people must be enslaved, and their children, and their children, and their children, until the end of time. Pope Nicholas did not say, no, enslave only the parents, and when the children get baptized, don't enslave them. No! He said enslave them forever. Whether you're Christian or not, you're a slave to them. And this is the source from which modern white supremacy comes. Modern white supremacy is born from the Roman Church, which is the mother of all these churches that you know. The Romanus Pontifex by Papa Niccolo V expressly says, when the Portuguese come to West Africa in the early 1400s, it expressly says, thank you guys for going to West Africa. You are thereby given the authority to enslave all the infidels of Africa and enslave them in perpetuity. That is to say, don't ever stop enslaving them. That is the agenda of the church in Africa. The church was not here to give you Christianity. The church was here to teach you that slaves obey your masters. The church was here to teach you that you guys have to be hewers of wood and fetchers of water. This is the teaching of Hendrik Verwoerd to the people of South Africa. Hendrik Verwoerd was loyal to the words of Pope Niccolo V from the 1450s. The Dutch were very clear on what their agenda in Africa was. The English were clear on what their agenda in Africa was. And today, AfriForum is very clear on what their agenda in Africa is. But there's only one group that is deluded. Only one. The slave. The slave is the one group that's actually delusional. All the other groups are very clear. They know exactly what they are. How can you civilize when you need civilization yourself? So we're going to go through this now. I'm going to play some audios for you. But I want you to understand, when Mbali comes out in public and says, I've got kafur, and every other black person in this room knows what I'm talking about. Mbali is not doing something new, guys. People must not act like they don't understand what Mbali is saying. Mbali is saying, I have accepted my position in the white supremacist society, that I'm just a monkey, I'm just a slave. Mbali says, white supremacy demands of me to diminish for whiteness to increase. And that's exactly what Mbali does. In the midst of whiteness, she diminishes herself. I've got kafur. And every other black person in this room knows this bloody truth. Which means, Mbali says, all of you black people, you must bow down to whiteness. She's doing it publicly. It's a public execution style. I have kafur, so let me cover my hair and put on a weave. You can act as if you don't agree with Mbali, but your actions agree with Mbali. Oh no, it's bad hair day, guys. It's bad hair day. You call your hair bad hair. You are Mbali. Oh no, a man must cut off his hair. A man must cut. Hey, do you know how many times guys used to force me to cut? When I went through university, I went through a period of never cutting or combing. Because I had to experience that. I had to experience living with my hair in its natural state. And I had to be comfortable. I had to be comfortable to go into public dialogue sessions with professors. I had to be comfortable to go into international platforms and deal with international leaders in that state. And I did it. I did it. So if you're ashamed of your hair, you're ashamed of your nose, you're ashamed of your lips, you are a white supremacist. The white supremacy project has been a successful project because white supremacists don't need to be white anymore. They are black. That's why you're going to cry that that moron, Charlie Kirk, has been pew-pewed by his own people who are equally white supremacists themselves. You're a white supremacist, black South African. You are white supremacists, black Zimbabweans. You are white supremacists, you bloody Nigerians. You are white supremacists, you Tanzanians and Congolese. All of you are white supremacists. You seek white validation. You want white acceptance. And that is why you are 100 years behind in everything. You live in shithole countries that are stinking and infested with dirt and rubble. You do not have the urgency. Let me repeat. You do not have the sense of urgency to release yourself from the claws of mental oppression. Black people are white supremacists. Now the crazy thing is that they are destroying themselves. Black people will agree with everything that is anti them. Everything that is against them, they will agree with it. Everything that is against them, they will support it. And then they will go and cry that they are victims. You're not a victim, motherfucker. You destroyed yourself. You keep on destroying yourself. And you deserve every bit of the pain you're going through. You always have an option to stand up and bloody destroy this bloody system that is destroying your life. So the proximity to whiteness is what black people seek. It's what colored people seek. It's what Indian people seek. It's why Chinese people seek. It's why Koreans seek. They're busy dyeing their hair blonde, opening their eyes. They literally have epicanthic eyes. They've got slanted eyes by nature. They want to open their eyes. They make cartoons in Japan with big eyes. You don't have big eyes, Japanese. But white supremacy requires that you denounce the self. Guys, white supremacy is not only by white people. There are black people. Majority of human beings who are black in the world have actually internalized white supremacy. That's why you think an indigenous wedding is demonic. That's why you think wearing skins is demonic. But then you go and buy a skin at Zara. You call it a leather jacket. It's literally a skin. You go and buy a skin at Gucci. And most of the owners of these shops don't even like you, by the way. They think you are monkeys. Most of the owners of these shops that you spend so much money on, Mercedes-Benz, Adidas, a lot of them are Nazis, white supremacists. They don't even like you. So, Enhle Mbali, when she says, I've got kafurar, what she's doing is saying publicly that in the midst of white supremacy, blackness must diminish. In the midst of whiteness, in proximity to whiteness, my essence must diminish. My essence must be erased. I said it 2 days ago that the goal of whiteness is not to remove you from the planet. The goal of whiteness, the goal of white supremacy, the goal of Christian nationalism, the goal of fascism, the goal of Nazism, which is all the same thing, by the way. Hitler and Donald Trump are the same thing. Hitler and Hendrik Verwoerd and John Foster and Botha, P.W. Botha and de Klerk are all the same thing. They're literally the same thing. One might say even the current South African Democratic government is neo-Nazist. It's a neo-Nazi government because it's a government that is anti-black. It is anti-indigenous. It's against the indigenous way of life. You know, yesterday I had a conversation about, we're talking about the fact that in Brazil, everything is in Portuguese. The news are in Portuguese. The road signs are in Portuguese. Everything is in Portuguese. It's a Portuguese-speaking country, which is a colony, by the way. The indigenous people of Brazil are not Portuguese. And it's the same thing in many other countries. And then the question came about, so why are we not doing everything in our languages in South Africa? I'm like, no, we're a colonial project. We can't have road signs in our languages. You can name roads by political people like Winnie Mandela Road, but you still use the word road instead of Indlela, or Tsela, or Umgaqo, or any other word. We don't have words for main roads. We don't use words for main roads in our languages. We don't use words for boulevards in our languages. There are no words that are used in our languages for a roundabout, for bridges. Like, none of that. National symbols are colonial languages, Afrikaans and English in South Africa. You write your final exams in matric in Afrikaans and English. Guys, we have a neo-Nazi government in office. And today, right now, the government is not ANC, by the way. It's a combination of all the Rupert good boys, you know. ANC, Patriotic Alliance, probably UDM, the Democratic Alliance or Demonic Alliance. All these are basically Rupert projects, you know, and Oppenheimer projects. So the order of the day is white supremacy, which is apartheid, which is Christian nationalism, which is the exact same thing as Nazism, which is the exact same thing as fascism. This is not my words. These are the words of John Foster in 1942. He said these words. He said, "We stand for Christian nationalism." Some people may call it dictatorship. In Germany, they call it Nazism, which is National Socialism. In Italy, they call it fascism. So apartheid is a dictatorship. White supremacy is a dictatorship. White supremacy is Nazism. White supremacy is fascism. It's not specific to Germany or France or Italy. It's everywhere. All the modern systems are white supremacy, which means they are Nazism, which means they are apartheid. That's the only way these people can thrive. They only exist in a white supremacy society. Anything that is not white supremacy feels like, to them, it feels like an attack. Anything that seeks some level of civilization, anything that seeks some level of discourse, anything that seeks some level of, correction of injustices, anything that seeks an acknowledgement of wrongs and confessions of wrongs, it's against them. And this stems from the church. Remember, the church is the conqueror of European identity. European identity was erased by the church. You had the Huns, you had the Goths and the Visigoths, you had the Franks and the Lombardis. Yeah? These are the different so-called ethnic groups of Europe, the tribes of at least the 1200s or so. The Huns became the Hungarians. The Bulgars became the Bulgarians. Then you've got the Celts or the Celtic peoples. And then you've got the Cornish peoples. You've got the Brittonic peoples. Then you have the Slavic peoples, which is where the name slave came from, by the way. And then you've got these Germanic groups, which are your Anglos and your Saxons and your Cimmerians, etc. All those identities were erased by the Holy Roman Empire. It was replaced by whiteness, which is Christianity. I repeat, in the European concept of Christianity, Christianity is equal to whiteness. Christianity is religious and Christianity is political. It's the exact same thing. And we will address Islam. Don't worry. Don't worry, we will address Islam. Because it's the exact same thing. It's even older, actually. It's even older. So Christianity, as it is understood in Africa today, is whiteness. There is no difference between whiteness and Christianity. In fact, in the Cape Colony, where my ancestors come from, in the Cape Colony, for you to be accepted as a citizen of the Cape Colony, you had to denounce your identity and become Christian, which means become white. Christianity is a vessel for whiteness. It's a container that contains whiteness everywhere in the world. You just export Christianity, you export whiteness. You can't be Christian and wear your skins and dance your dances and beat your drums and carry your spears. Somehow, those two are in conflict. That is the Christianity of Europeans, the one that came to Africa. The one that was approved by Pope Nicholas V when he wrote the Romanus Pontifex in 1455. The Romanus Pontifex, which said, enslave all the African people perpetually, forever. They're not like us. They're not like us. They're not like us. They're not. So let's see what Mbali is saying. Let me play a video. Now, I want you guys to really pay attention. I'm going to start playing some videos now. I'm going to play some videos. Please like and share the live, ne? Please like and share the lives. I'm going to play some videos. There's that fool, Mbali. Bloody idiot. Hey, black people are such an embarrassment sometimes. Let's hear what she's saying, this idiot.
And the black people know exactly what I mean. The colored people know exactly what I mean as
I've got kafurar. It's funny how she's busy like saying black people know exactly what I mean. Colored people know exactly what I mean. Why can't you speak for yourself? Why are you bringing everyone into this nonsense of yours? Listen to that. Listen to that. Listen to that.
And the black people know exactly what I mean. The colored people know exactly what I mean as well. It's that hair that's just like skillful. You should see my hair and the pussy.
Hey.
It's absolutely healthy. But they've also done my lashes, they're doing my nails. So what I love about walking into a cotton hair is you get a full experience. It's not just about your hair, it's about your skin.
You see, guys, do you understand? She understands that for her to continue existing in this space that she's in, the only place in which she's acceptable is a place of servitude. The only place in which she's acceptable is when she occupies a position of servitude. She understands it. And she plays right into that. And they're laughing. They're laughing. She's a caricature. She's a caricature that has been created over years. She is a caricature that has been created over years. This is the exact same thing I observed growing up. Where all the advertisements that had black people, they were dancing or singing. Dancing or singing. Dancing or singing. You don't see a black person in a suit making a business deal in an advertisement. You don't see a black person owning something important in an advertisement. You don't see a black person, in a yacht, having a good time in an advertisement. No, they are dancing. Yeah. Mo. Sunlight washing powder. All those nonsensical adverts. Because you have to become a caricature to exist in the space of white supremacy. White supremacy does not seek to remove you from existence. It seeks to take away your essence, and you exist only for the elevation of whiteness. Your existence in a white supremacist system only seeks to serve, to elevate, and to do for whiteness. Your very existence is for whiteness. That is your position in a white supremacist society. That is why Hendrik Verwoerd, in his own words, said, Abantu need to understand that their place is to be hewers of wood and fetchers of water. Their place is not to be philosophers. Their place is not to be thinkers. Their place is not to be designers of systems. Their place is not to be doctors. Their place is not to be engineers. Their place is not to be astronomers and astronauts. Their place is not to be chemists. No, their place is to be hewers of water and hewers of wood and fetchers of water. That is to say, you're gonna go and be a nanny to my children. You're gonna go and do my garden. You're gonna go and iron my clothing. You're gonna go and do my laundry. And then you go back bloody home. Kafir. That is your place in a white supremacist society. And if you refuse to do that, I'm going to oppress the hell out of you. I'm going to fragment your reality so much so you will be disillusioned from within. This is what you see in the global scale. You go to Brazil, you watch TV shows in Brazil. Black people are portrayed as maids and cooks and ugly and You know, there are caricatures. You go to USA, you know, there's police brutality, and the society is so desensitized. There's racism is so normal. You go to India, as much as the Indians themselves are literally seen as the other in white society. They are hated in white society. They still extend the same hate towards the darker Indians, and even more so towards the black people in India, called the Siddhis, who are East African slave descendants, by the way. Same thing in Chinese society. And I know the Chinese have run a very good propaganda, by the way. They've run a very good propaganda machine with bricks and all that. People are worshipping them. No, you are seen as a monkey in China. There's museums that are dedicated to comparing you to a monkey. That's it. They think your skin is dirty. They'll be touching black people's hair and skin from time to time. And I'm not saying every single Chinese person does this, but I'm saying the system. The system. You go to Japan, they were having protests just now because the Japanese prime minister said they want to make some African cities because they need foreigners to work for them. Yo, the Japanese people went crazy. Like, you cannot bring Africans here. Africans did not ask to be taken to Japan. It's the Japanese prime minister who said it. People are so angry at these bloody Africans. You go to Australia, it's the exact same thing. They hate the Aboriginal Australians. So, white supremacy is not a white people's thing only. Everyone pursues white supremacy, including black people. This is what you see as colorism. It's white supremacy. We must not sanitize it. Colorism is white supremacy. Texturism is white supremacy. Featureism is white supremacy. If you think a pointy nose is more beautiful than a round bottle nose, that's white supremacy. Because there is no factual, empirical basis for that. There's no model that has been built to rate attraction based on the position or shape of the nose. There isn't. None whatsoever. So it is white supremacy, all of it. So saying you've got kafurar, your hair is like a pot scroller, it's white supremacy, and she exists in it beautifully. Spigza, if I can get a Japanese woman, hey, I hope you could, but it's very likely they won't want you because you're not white. Japanese, they like whiteness. They worship whiteness. The Japanese, when they see you as a monk, you are a downgrade. You would be destroying their bloodline. That's exactly what we're saying. You're suffering from the King Kong syndrome. You remember King Kong, the big gorilla that is tamed by the white woman. You suffer from the King Kong syndrome, and you are a typical example of a finished product of white supremacy. You belong with this group of people. This one. You see this group? They worship whiteness so much, they will sacrifice themselves. Look at him and look at this. Whited out. He's literally been erased in one generation. You see, there are black men who fantasize about this. All of you, we see you. It's not you've been socialized to idealize and fantasize about this. You rank the white women higher. You rank blonde hair. And they don't even want white women with black hair, by the way. They don't want brunettes. They want the blondes with blue eyes, which is the perfect Aryan feature. It's the perfect Aryan feature. That's what you black guys want. You want the most pale group of people. Very few black guys want Indians because they are brown. You want the Aryan woman, this one. This is what you guys want. This is what you guys fantasize about. Same thing for black men, by the way. Same thing for black men. Black men want this, black women want this. So you are, in essence, a Nazi. Except that you are a Nazi towards yourself. Which defeats the purpose. It's counterintuitive, guys. It's counterintuitive to be racist to yourself. It's counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive. If you think there are certain features that are more beautiful than others, there's a certain color scheme that is more beautiful than another. There are certain textures that are more beautiful than others. There's certain kinds of hair that are more beautiful than within our indigenous communities. You are a delusional fool. See, where I was born, I'm the 10th child. No, I understand, speak. I understand, don't worry. But tell you what, the comment you made about wanting a Japanese woman, years ago, I was still in high school. We went to a camp in Northwest. We went to a camp in Marupeng, the cradle of mankind. And we met kids from other schools. And we're sitting now around at night, maybe around 11. We're just having conversations. Someone asked the question, what are your guys' fantasies? One guy, that's the only one I remember from all the things that people said. That guy's fantasy was to be with a Japanese woman in a round bed. He fantasized about being with a Japanese woman. So what you said is a reality, actually. It's not even, made up. It's a reality. And those are the results of white supremacy, because I can promise you right now, the average Japanese woman is not fantasizing about a South African man. The average Chinese woman is not fantasizing about a South African man. The average Swedish and Swiss women are not fantasizing about South African men. They're not thinking about Udlamini. They're not thinking about Mukwena. You occupy a space of absolute irrelevance in their lives, actually. You occupy a place of absolute irrelevance, immaterial existence in their lives. And if that does not trigger a response in which you revert to self, then I'm afraid this generation is cooked. This generation is cooked. There's no way of coming back. Then you might as well be wiped out, all of you, black people in the world. Because you are anti-self. Therefore, it's better than to just join in with the people who want to take you out and accelerate the process. Streamline the process, make it faster. Wipe yourselves out. If you don't think that you can exist by self, you need to somehow link yourself to something else. If you do not feel that you can exist by self, you need to attach to something else. Then accelerate the process of wiping yourselves out. Go to the Nazis. They will be very happy to take advantage of that opportunity. They will wipe you out. They will decapitate your heads. They will burn you alive. Why do Xhosa men like European women? It's socialization. It is. Thank you, Observer. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gifts. And guys, please keep them coming. Keep these gifts coming. Thank you. Someone is asking, why do Xhosa men love European women? Let me put it this way. It is a generalization. It is a generalization. What I can say, I can pose the question a bit differently. Why do Europeanized native South African men worship whiteness and therefore have fantasize, with European women? Because these are Europeanized people that you're talking about. My father doesn't give a damn about no European women. He's an indigenous man who was raised in an indigenous system. He doesn't give a damn about European women. So for me, I don't have a reference to that. My brother doesn't give a damn about European women. All the men actually in my bloodline don't give a damn about European women. These are indigenous men who were raised by an indigenous systems. But those who have been Europeanized, now remember guys, our Europeanization came through religion. Religion called Christianity. Christianity is whiteness. And I know there are those who are going to defend it. Oh no, Christianity started in Africa. Oh no, the Ethiopian church. Oh no, Hebrews are black. Relax. The life is going to be long enough. I'm going to explain. When Christianity came in the 1400s, it came through the Pope's orders. The Pope Nicholas V, Papa Niccolo V, wrote a pontifex called Romanus Pontifex, a book where he encouraged Portuguese who had started going into West Africa in the 1450s. He encouraged them to go deep into Africa and to enslave Everyone who's not a Christian in perpetuity. But the Portuguese themselves were already completely, they were already conquered by Christianity centuries before. They were already conquered centuries before. Now, those who say Christianity comes from Ethiopia, I wouldn't say that's true. Ethiopians were converted earlier, long ago. In fact, if you learn about the disciples, the Talmudim means the learners, the disciples. One of the Talmudim is a man called Philip, disciple called Philip. He went to basically Ethiopia, that is to say the Sudanic region. And therefore, it survived through the Coptic church and through Ethiopia. But that has nothing to do with the modern day system of Christianity in Africa. Modern day Christianity in Africa, modern day system of Christianity in Africa is literally slavery. Now Lebza is saying, then stop to speak European language. Well, I mean, I could stop to speak it, but you wouldn't even understand what I'm saying, which is again testament to my point that the system we exist in is a white supremacist system. The system we exist in is a white supremacist system. Because if I then speak my language, you're not even going to understand what I'm saying, which is going to get you even deeper into the hole that you are in, which is a hole of complete delusion. So your chances of actually getting yourself out of that mud in which you are is actually me speaking this colonial language that I'm speaking right now. It increases your chances of actually, getting some kind of value from me. Otherwise, uba ndiyaqala ndingena nzulu kwele nkobo ulwimi uzoxakana nelo ngoba awuzundiva. Izawungena ngapha igqobhozele ngapha ya. Uyaqonda? Awuzundiva xa sendiqala ndingena nzulu ngoku. Awuzuyilozela ngomqondo, awuzuyishonda ngengqondo. Awuzuyilozela ngamagabuko omshondo into endiyitshoyo ngomlomo. Uyabona? So don't even start with that. Don't even start. I master my languages. I master. But you don't care about me speaking European languages. You are just offended. You're just offended that I'm not being nice towards your masters. And therefore, you're trying to put yourself in a position where you can defend them. You are offended, Lebza. I get it, man. That's the training we got. The training we got was a training that you must stand in the gap for whiteness. You must fight for whiteness. That's what you are doing, Lebza. You are fighting for whiteness. And I get it, my brother. I get it. I was there someday as well. I was there. I was like you. It's a difficult process. It's a difficult process. It's going to take time. Take it easy, okay? I don't want you to be depressed. It's depressing, I know. I don't want you to be depressed. But take it easy, rats. Take some time, breathe in, breathe out, go get some cold water, cool down, come back and learn. So when Mbali says, I've got kafur, she's not saying it because whatever. She's saying it because Mbali understands that to exist in the context of whiteness, blackness must diminish to servitude. Blackness must diminish to being hewers of wood and fetchers of water. That is the agenda of whiteness. Whiteness only accepts blackness in the context of slavery. Guys, that's the only way. You exist to serve white people. You serve them for entertainment. You serve them for their own pleasure. That's the only way in which you exist in white society. Any other thing, you are being lied to. And if you think I'm lying, I'm giving you the next 10 years. You will see the world is going to change in a way you never thought. In a way you never thought. You can only exist in a system of white supremacy, in a system of apartheid, in a system of Nazism, in a system of fascism, in a system of Christian nationalism, which is all the same thing. You can only exist in that system as a servant. Asians like China and Arabs, it's all the same. They are all white supremacists themselves. They actually bow down to whiteness. Those people, the Asians, bow down to whiteness. The Arabs bow down to whiteness. The moment they're accepted into proximity of whiteness, they detach from their identity. I'll give you an example. Here in South Africa, during apartheid, which still exists, during apartheid, Irans were honorary whites. Iranis were honorary whites. They didn't give a damn about their Irani heritage when they gained their white heritage. In fact, Iranis will go out of their way to tell you that they're the original Aryans. Therefore, somehow indirectly saying they must be included in the Aryan race of Hitler. Iranis will go out of their way to tell you we are the original Aryan people. Indians will go out of their way to tell you that the Europeans, their languages come from the Proto-Indo-European people. Indo-European are the people who gave birth to the Indians. The Indians will go out of their way to talk about that. They will go out of their way and therefore saying, accept us into whiteness. Black people will go out of their way to say, guys, I'm a Christian. We are all one. No, motherfucker. You're a slave. And they're your master. And that's the only way you can exist in that system. You cannot exist in a system of whiteness where you are equal to whites. Being equal to whites in a system of white supremacy is an insolence. It's a crime against humanity. You can't be equal to whites in a white system. You can't be equal to whites in a white system. You are insulting the whites if you want to be equal to them. You can only be a slave. Let's go back to the video of Enhle Mbali. Today we're going deep, guys. Please share the live. I'm not accepting. I see someone wants to be a co-host. I'm not accepting anyone. I'm talking alone. It's funny, man. It's funny, this thing of Enhle Mbali. But it's sad because I've been watching Enhle Mbali over the years. It's sad. She's experiencing real-time white supremacy within herself. I think she's even confused what's happening. 1 minute she's in a movie, she's busy doing a weird, erotic American accent. She's trying to sound like a Californian white girl. The next minute she's busy saying she's got kafurar. The next minute she wants the white people to laugh. Yo, it's sad what I'm seeing her going through. It's sad. Now, before I go back to the video, someone was asking why Xhosa men like European women, and I corrected it. It's a generalization. There's millions of Xhosa people in the country. Unless there's been a study, couple of studies, evidence-based studies that prove and show a clear trend to say Xhosa men generally prefer Europeans. I was raised in an indigenous culture by an indigenous mother, indigenous father. They never taught me about European beauty and all that, right? It's the TV that taught me that European women who are blonde and have blue eyes are the most beautiful. It's the TV shows I used to watch. I saw white women as this beautiful standard. I watched Sheena. I watched Zina when I was young. And I started to fantasize about whiteness like every other black guy. You watch any movie from the 90s and the early 2000s, I promise you, it worships whiteness. You watch any movie, white men are saving Africans. You've got Tarzan, you've got Spider-Man who's white, and then if there's a black superhero, then it gets removed and gets defeated. So it's TV programs, it's school that taught me that whiteness is the standard. It's not my mother or my father. It's not my mother or my father. I'm sorry. My mother and my father didn't tell me about beauty standards and whatever. They told me to respect my forefathers and my ancestors. That's what they taught me. They taught me that we exist to continue the work of our forefathers. That's what I was taught as a child. To this day, I'm taught to respect elders. I was not taught to want whiteness. So it's not something you learn at home. Now, there are behaviors that your parents must have gotten from their parents, who have gotten from their parents, who have gotten from their parents, and it was beaten down unto them. Like in KZN, reverends used to teach, these white missionaries used to teach that if you speak Isilala, you are going to hell. I kid you not, white missionaries used to teach KZN people, abantu baseNatal, abantu bakwaZulu, they used to teach them that if you speak Isilala or Isizansi or Isitonga, you are going to hell. It's the languages of demons. They taught them that. So if now you're speaking Isilala and people are laughing at you, which I've seen online, when someone speaks Isitonga, people in the comments are like, what kind of language is this? Sis, what is this thing? It's legacy. It's legacy. So these things do happen. There are inherited behaviors that will seek to diminish anything that promotes indigenous independence. This is why, even from back in the day, there were religious sects that decided to determine that we want to be in absolute independence from these people. In Eastern Cape, there was a religious sect that developed called Upol or Upol, which the PAC people adopted that name from that religious sect. They adopted the name Upol. Upol means absolute, in the sense of absolute independence from whiteness. The word Poko is similar to the word Geqe or Gelekete, which means completely, which means absolutely independent. It's similar to the Zulu word Geleke or Geleke, those who know Zulu properly. So, these sects developed in the early and 1800s as a form of some attempt to fight white supremacy. But how do you fight white supremacy within white supremacy? That was the biggest downfall of movements like Uphoqo and therefore Imbumba Yamanyama, and therefore what led up to movements like SANNC, which led up to ANC. So these movements were from KZN, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, before these places were named. These are indigenous movements that were seeking absolute independence. But the only way they could even get an ear, get an audience with Europeans was if they spoke the European language. The only way they could get an audience with Europeans is if they dressed like the Europeans. I remember in the 1800s, Jan Chachu of Amaxhosa went to England in front of the Council for Aboriginals, together with another man, Stoffels, I forgot his other name. They went there to fight for the rights of the indigenous and aboriginal people. But already they are within the system, which means they are already slaves. Because remember, the system has a determined position for a native who's not white. Your position is that of servitude and slavery. You cannot exist in any other position. They may act for some time with token blacks like your Candace Owens, token blacks like your famous superstar, soccer superstars and whatever. And the only time they entertain those people is because they gain something. But in reality, they don't give a damn about your token blacks. They couldn't give a damn. They think you smell, for that matter. They teach their children that black people smell. They teach their children that you guys are just dumb. You cannot fight whiteness within a system of whiteness. That is the first thing. Systems like Imbumba Yamanyama, and which then led to SANNC, which then led to ANC, which is what we have today, UDM, and all these other offshoots. All those are systems that are based on what? On white supremacy. They are just systems of response. They never existed out of their own volition. They existed in response to white supremacy. Now, the people who really fought, who had no understanding of white supremacy at all and no interest in it, the people who really fought, now these are the people, the princes, the royals. Those ones fought like nobody's business. They had no interest in whiteness. They had no interest in white supremacy. They actually called them Abelungu, the wandering demons, which is the most correct labeling of Abelungu than you can ever find. Lungu means around. Lungu means circling. Lungu means dizziness, which gives us isizungu and bazungu. Zungu means around, in circles, and therefore to wander around like a spirit that has no rest. And therefore, Abelungu, they are the restless familiar spirits, aka the demons. Those people who call them those names are the only ones who actually saw the truth. They are the only ones who saw the reality. We are dealing with something sinister, something that is not human. A mutated species. If you study genetics, you would know what I'm talking about. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please don't forget to like, tap the screen, share the live, and bring them on. Bring the gifts. I'm going to continue now. So I just wanted to say now, the people then who see whiteness as a standard of beauty, it's socialization. We were socialized. We were socialized. Black boys were socialized to worship white skin. That's why even amongst black women, black boys will always prefer the lighter skinned people. Are the lighter skinned people bad people? No. They are black people and they are beautiful. Are the darker skinned people bad people? No, they are black people and they are beautiful. The problem is when you decide, you use a metric that is based on white proximity. Light skin is not in proximity to whiteness. Enhle Mbali is a light skinned woman, but she still understands that she's just a kafir in the space of whiteness. I was saying just now that, it's funny that Siya Kolisi as a captain, he's been, involved in the rugby sport and all that. He's being tolerated by the ultra supporters. He's being tolerated by the ultra supporters only because he actually brings in the cash for the Rugby Union of South Africa. He literally brings in the cash because then delusional black people think the rugby is theirs. Oh, we are a rugby nation. Rugby nation yamasimba. Rugby nation yamasipa. I-rugby nation yokunya ngesintu. Rugby nation. When you can see the true desire of the supporters is to not see anyone on Tsundu. Abantu abansundu are just put in there because they're bringing the money of the tickets. Siya Kolisi is there just sanitizing the image of the rugby. The existence of the Springbok rugby team was white supremacy. That's it, nothing else. Why being I Bugeli Kaizer Chiefs no Orlando Pirates? They don't want to be associated with Orlando, some township. They don't want to be associated with Mamelodi. Even the names, Mamelodi. Ooh, dear. Oh, dear Lord. So, white supremacy, guys, is not about skin color. It's a system. Oh, we are united. We are only divided by the ANC. You hear black people say that. You know why they say that? Because the same as Enhle Mbali saying, I've got kafirar. They understand that in the midst of whiteness, you must be against self. You must be against self. Oh, it's only the ANC. Come on, the ANC is not running the country, guys. We all know that. The ANC is not running the bloody country. We all know that. It's the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts who run the bloody country. And tell you what, I'm not defending the ANC. Ramaphosa is a bloody puppet and a bloody criminal. Just like Bheki Cele, just like Fikile Mbalula. They are all liars. They should be cut off. Once and for all, man. I don't understand black people behaving like they don't have the ability to choose. They don't have the ability to do the right thing. You can do the right thing. Ramaphosa can do the right thing. He chooses not to. And then you have the Democratic Alliance, which is a Nazi party, by the way. The Democratic Alliance is a Nazi party. It's a Nazi party. Cape Town belongs to Germans as we speak. Sea Point belongs to Germans and Jews. As we speak right now, you go to Scarborough, you go to Hout Bay, you go to Constantia, you go to Noordhoek, you go to Franschhoek, you go to Stellenbosch, Paarl. The Russians are getting big farms there. Big wine farm. Russians and French people, billionaires, are owning lands. The people of Cape Town, though, are stuck in Khayelitsha. They are stuck in Mitchell's Plain. They are stuck in Nyanga. They are stuck in Bishop Lavis. They are stuck in Valhalla Park. I've always said, these bloody politicians, they only care about feeding themselves, guys. They know the time is running out. White people are going to take back the country in full force. America is ushering in white people taking back the country. America is ushering in white people taking back the country. It's a 30-year project. Oh, my. You know, here in Cape Town, just a little story. The Cape Town is a heritage place, ne? The very city center of Cape Town belongs to indigenous nations, and therefore their descendants today. And then you've got places like District 6, you've got places like Woodstock, Salt River. All these places belong to indigenous people or their descendants. That's it. But they've been gentrifying these places like nobody's business. They're fixing up the buildings, or they're using facadism, fixing the faces and selling them to international clients. You go to Cape Town right now, guys, for a single room with no kitchen, you pay 10,000 rand. In city center, you pay 10,000 rand. So you must be using euros or dollars or the GPP or the Kuwaiti dinar or whichever currency that is stronger to be able to afford this bloody life in Cape Town. Let's go back to Enhle Mbali before I do. So to answer that question then, why do our men fetishize and fantasize about whiteness? It's the same reason. It's white supremacy. The more in proximity you are to whiteness, it's not just skin color. If you like, for a woman to be attractive to you, they need to have a certain twang in their accent. Then there's a problem. And there's nothing wrong with having preference of how a person speaks. What I normally say is that generally someone who speaks with more clarity, someone who speaks with a more inviting tone, they tend to be attractive. That's fine. That's not a problem. A tone can be inviting in any accent. A tone can be clear in any accent. But if for you, someone has to somehow have a certain twang and sound like they're from Australia or sound like they're from California, then you are a white supremacist or a victim of white supremacy, which for you to be a proper victim of white supremacy, you have to be a white supremacist yourself. So the Xhosa guys who worship white supremacy, it's actually Xhosa, it's Zulu, it's Sotho, all these guys who went to these specific prestigious institutions. All the guys who went to this specific prestigious institution. And I love education, né? But if you don't educate your children, at home about who they are, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to worship whiteness. They're going to hate everything that looks like them, and they're going to worship whiteness. They're going to become fresh and fit. They're going to become Andrew Tate, whose father is a black man. Fresh and fit, he's a Sudanese immigrant, but he's everything against that. Tell you something, you will never be accepted in white supremacy if you are black. So if you are a black person and you love white supremacy and you love whiteness, it's fine, you can love it. But I want you to know that you love it at your own peril, at your expense. Whiteness will never love you back. As long as you understand that and you say, look, my existence is sad enough. I want to be wiped out. Therefore, I'm going to support whiteness. I'm going to be Candace Owens. I'm going to be the Hodge twins, whatever they are called. It's fine, you can do that. But whiteness does not require the involvement of black people. You cannot speak for whiteness as a black person. You cannot operate as a mouthpiece for whiteness. Ask Penwell the Black Pen. He's been crying for the past few years. Whiteness keeps on disappointing him month after month. One day, guys, I've joined AfriForum. The next day, yo, guys, I don't like AfriForum anymore. The next day, yo, guys, the Afrikaners are hard workers. After that, Afrikaners are racist. There's this other lady here called I Complain. After the whole Open Chats debacle, this lady called I Complain, the one who was busy fighting black Americans, she came out here saying black people are the most racist. After that, the colors called her a kafir. She went and removed the video. Yo, guys. I love white supremacy. Because white supremacy doesn't buy face. White supremacy doesn't care who you are. Doesn't care if you speak for it or against it. It is against you all the time. It is the most consistent system for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. White supremacy doesn't operate in the shadows. That's why racist Afrikaners are racist right in your face. There's a guy here, Derek Lewis. I don't know if that's his name. He calls black people Umbalupas or Bugalugas. Something like that. He calls colors half Ugalugas or something like that. I'll try and find these videos. If I can find them, I'll show you guys. That's white supremacy right there. Uga Buga, yes. Clark. He calls people Uga Bugas. He probably has some West African blood, by the way. Because a lot of Afrikaners, they have West African ancestry. Daniel Clark, yes. A lot of Afrikaners and colors have West African ancestors. Remember, majority of the slaves in the Cape Colony were West Africans. They were from Guinea, they were from Ghana, they're from Nigeria, they're from Cameroon, and some were from Angola and Congo. So what happened is that when the slaves buy their freedom and then own lands in Hout Bay and own lands in Franschhoek and own farms, a lot of the farms were owned actually by slaves. So what then happens is that the slaves end up marrying back into the white society. And because white people understand they need to own those lands. So you go to Constantia, you go to Franschhoek, you go to Sea Point today, they own those properties through their black ancestors and their some of their queer ancestors who are generally the females because they wiped out the males. 70% of the population of the queer indigenous people in Cape Town were wiped out within the first 30 years of the arrival of the Dutch. 70% of the population were wiped out. Yeah, I know a lot of colors in Cape Town have a lot of West African ancestry. A lot. The majority of the slaves in the Cape were West Africans. And people don't get it. Majority of the slaves in the Cape Colony were black Africans from West Africa most of the time, but there were some from Zimbabwe. There were some from Mozambique. There were some from Zanzibar and Ethiopia. In fact, when I say Cape Colony, I'm not saying Cape Town only. I mean Cape Town, I mean Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and Northern Cape. In Eastern Cape, we had slaves in the 1800s from Ethiopia. Oromo slaves from Ethiopia. So a lot of these racist Afrikaners, their ancestors are actually West Africans. That's it. They're projecting. I was looking at Rassi Erasmus actually giving an interview and I noticed his nose that man, there's definitely some mixture here. There's some mixture. When you get close and look at it, his nose is quite wide. It's tiny, it's quite wide. In fact, there's another guy that I follow here. On sometimes I see his videos. This guy, he does traveling. He goes to game reserves and all that. He's Afrikaner. Mara, that guy looks colored to me. That one. He definitely has South African indigenous ancestors and West African ancestors. I don't care who says what. And I'm highlighting this in the sense of white supremacy is so deluded that it ignores facts like that. They are white supremacists because they don't want to be who they are. They first steal the identity of being Afrikaner from the very first community of mixed race children. Remember when the Dutch arrive, when the white people of South Africa arrive, it was not just Dutch. It was not just Dutch. 40% were Dutch, and then Germans, and then English, and then some French. They came here because of religious reasons. They say they were running away from the Catholic Church. They say they were running away from the Catholic Church. When they arrived here, there were some women amongst them. There were some women amongst them, right? But most of the women were not there. So they come here. They end up mixing with the indigenous women, giving birth to the first generation of mixed race children, born in Africa. That's why they were called Afrikaners. The Afrikaners were the original mixed race children. Now, those mixed race children identified themselves as Africans and therefore formed their own communities. To such a point that these Afrikaners, the original Afrikaners, went into Namibia, they went into the Northern Cape, they went into the Free State, they mixed with Eastern Cape people, they mixed with Basotho, they mixed with Amakos, the original Afrikaners. In fact, some of the sheep they used to keep, which we call igusha, we also call it amafikandile, the Afrikander, amafikandile, the Afrikander cows, the Afrikander sheep. Now, the Boers, who are descendants of Dutch, English, German, French, Portuguese, that's why you've got Ferreiras in South Africa. That's why you've got Nels. Nel is French, Dinel. Duplessis, Dutoit, or what they call Dutoit. These are French names, guys. These are French names. These ones now, they become Labuschain or Labuschain, whatever it's called. That's and then you've got your Engelbrecht, which are like Germanic surnames now, Dutch Germanic surnames. You got Van Zyl, Van der Merwe, Verwoerd. They are a mixture of different European nations within themselves. So they were not one specific European nation. They were a mixture of different European nations plus Asians. In fact, Jan van Riebeeck, ne? After Jan van Riebeeck, the governor of the Cape was a man called Simon van der Stel. Simon van der Stel is the same one after whom Simonstown was named and Stellenbosch was named. He was a mixed race person. He was a colored Simon van der Stel. His father was Dutch. His mother was probably Malaysian or Indonesian or Vietnamese. So Afrikaners were never this pure white race that they tried to tell everyone they are. And they were never Afrikaners. They were just a mixed race group of people. They were mixed with Germanics, they were mixed with Latin groups, with Celtic groups, and Asian, plus Africans now. Some years ago, I saw a genetic test of an Afrikaner, whose surname is Botha, by the way. And he had 4% West African DNA. He had 4% West African DNA. I'll try and find it and show you guys. So Afrikaners are not these Dutch people. They are not Dutch. Some of them are Germans, but they are not this pure white race. But what I'm trying to show you the insanity of white supremacy. White supremacy says it's fine, you can erase all of that and accept white supremacy. And white supremacy guarantees that you occupy a place of superiority, irrespective of your competence, irrespective of your ability. You occupy a place of superiority at the expense of everyone who's not white. It says that to the whites. To the non-whites, it says you occupy a place of servitude. You occupy a place of servitude and you must rate amongst each other. So if you are black, you are at the lowest. If you are mixed race, you are much closer to whiteness and therefore you are better. Whether it's not written down or not, people internalize it. That's why the first time black people and colored people fight, they're gonna invoke that white supremacist narrative. Oh no, you are West African invaders, which is not true. Oh no, your hair doesn't blow in the wind, which means my hair blows in the wind. I'm closer towards white proximity, which is also self-hating because there's a huge number of colored people whose hair doesn't blow in the wind. They have to burn it for it to blow. And black people who hate their hair, they're busy removing their hair, they're putting weaves on. And the weaves, because they contain chemicals, they use chemicals, it literally eats up all their hair follicles. They're losing hair, they are bald, but it's a 19-year-old girl, but she's bald in the head. Unenjibapa, because akazithandi. Ziyakhala. Ziyakhala. So, even when these non-white groups fight amongst each other, they still invoke whiteness. No, I've got more whiteness than you. Therefore, I'm better than you. No, you have got less whiteness. I've got more whiteness. Oh no, we Xhosas, we are light-skinned. We're not like you guys. Oh no, we Tswanas, we are light-skinned. Ah, ha, ha. Hey, me. Und. Don't play with me here. You cannot exist. You cannot exist in that sadness, guys. It doesn't make sense for an indigenous society to operate and exist in that state of... It's a state of sadness. I'm sorry. It is a state of sadness. So if you think you can debate your way out of white supremacy, you have something else coming your way. You've got something else coming your way. Busy saying, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. He's scared of you. If you're a pilot, he was not going to board the plane. He says he was going to really question you bloody black pilots. And he hates these moronic black women. Oh no, but he's friends with Candace Owens. Come on now. Come on now. So, I've answered that question. They are Europeanized, socially Europeanized and Christianized black men. And those ones, they rate whiteness as above everything else. Because that's what whiteness demands. They are Europeanized black women. Not all South African women think the same. But those who have been Europeanized, just like the Europeanized black men, they worship whiteness. Just like the coloreds who have been Europeanized, they worship whiteness, just like the Indians. Now, there are coloreds who are not like that. I've met them. Amazing colored people who love their blackness, who love their indigenous identity. I'm not talking about the ones who are anti-indigenous, who claim to be indigenous, but they are anti-indigenous because they think indigenous identity is limited to what benefits them. I'm not talking about those ones. Those ones are paid. Those ones are paid actors. They're paid by AfriForum and Solidarity. I'm talking about true coloreds. True colors who love indigenous spirituality to begin with. Because you cannot want indigenous identity. You cannot want indigenous identity, but you only want it if it benefits you. Nondwaiza says that she's getting married and her husband is going to be Okong Madzigane. Welele. This is exactly what I'm saying. And your husband is going to become Okong Madzigane, ne? Your husband is going to be Okong Madzigane, and then your husband is going to divorce you and keep the surname. Then your husband is going to go and marry Ada Obiekwe Adegeye. And then change Ada Obiekwe Adegeye and give her the surname Madzigane. So you're going to have Okong Madzigane and Ada Obiekwe Madzigane. Their children are going to be Mandla Madzigane, and they're going to be in parliament. Oh, badlala ngathi parliament. Parliament. Uthi thoya delays. Okong Madzigane is gonna marry Ada Obiekwe Madzigane. They're gonna divorce the South African women, take their wives, give them South African surnames, give their children South African surnames, take places in school, take positions in parliament. In fact, even the Chinese are gonna do it. Even the Bulgarians, even the Lithuanians that are here, the Latvians that are here, the Jews are gonna do it. No, it's women empowerment. It's women empowerment, guys. It's women empowerment. You're going to have a Pakistani man who's Mandla Matebula. Legally now. Legally. For 50 rand and 2 loaves of bread and 6 eggs. Fake eggs, by the way. Mandla Matebula was a Pakistan. And they're going to be in parliament. I see people don't realize the gravity of this. They are going to be in parliament, guys. They are going to be in parliament. They are going to be in parliament, which means they're going to be debating policy. They're going to be drafting bills. I see your question about Zulus and East Africa. I will address that one. Because remember now, guys, surnames especially amongst the KZN populations, Amazulu, and Emaswati. A lot of these surnames are attached to bloodline. Surnames are not just last names. They are attached to bloodline. Surnames are literally the names of your ancestors. It doesn't matter what your surname is, even if you are Xhosa. It's the name of one of your ancestors. My surname is Tukani. Tukani is my 4th or 5th grandfather, I think. My father's name is Kunku. His father's name is Skova. His father's name is Zinzizo or Gokoza. His father or grandfather's name is Tukani, which is my last name. Tukani is a descendant of a certain bloodline. A certain bloodline within Amamfen. Now, I do know there are some amongst our people with surnames like Grootboom, surnames like, April, May, June, July, September. Those ones have a history of slavery. So those surnames come from that. I know some Xhosa people, they have such surnames like September, July, October. I personally know guys abango April. I know a guy who May. I've seen a September. I've seen a breakfast. I've seen a holiday. Some of these last names are crazy, man. Holiday. Yeah, I was shocked when I saw breakfast and holiday. I guys. But I do get it. There's a history of oppression and slavery there. I know that one. There is a history of that. Actually, I know one of my followers, a close follower of mine, he is from the breakfast family. And I think their cousins are holidays. I do get it. You see, Uta Wong's, his last name is Roy Bart. Roy Bart. But his clan name is Gach. Now, Gach, if you know about Gach, these are Nama people. They are Nama people originally, the Gach people. So there is that element of serving in farms. Some of my ancestors did serve in farms as cheap slave labor. So, for example, my maternal grandfather was called Willem. My father was called Bosman. The Dutch, they didn't call my father by his name. They called him Bosman. So imagine if we were still under oppression. My last name would be Bosman now. Yes, it's me. I spoke about Amaxhosa with Scottish origin. Or Skoji. So there are Xhosa people with European origin. There are Zulu people with European origin. There are Tonga Venda-speaking people with European and Middle Eastern origin. We know those ones. For example, Oskoji kwaXhosa. Those are the Scottish people. Oskoji. And then you've got Obam, the Bam people, which is an English surname. I've got the Roskruj. Roskruj, a friend of mine is from the Roskruj. These are Irish Celtic peoples. These are Brittonic peoples. I've got a friend who's from the Dawkins. The Dawkins are Irish peoples. He's from that bloodline. There's Kenhams. There's Spaldings. All these people are there. They are black colored today. Black and colored. Yes, my father was called Bosman. In the farms where he grew up. So my father's family and my mother's family, they both were servants in farms. Their lands were taken and given to Scottish landowners and Germans. So where they are from, you'll find a lot of Germanic names like Herzog, Stutterheim, Berlin, and all the Scottish names like Lashington. Dzikane. No, Dzikane is it's Tekela. It's called a Lidikane. It's a little pool of water. Idike is a pool of water. So Lidzikane, it's a little pool of water. Or a little fireplace, iziko elincane. Amamfene are related to Ochezi and Oshes in KZN, Otusi in KZN. In Lesotho, they are related to Ematsedza within the Baputi people. Ematsedza within the Baputi people. Emachedzi within the Baputi people. Emanyatsi within the Baputi people. They are part of the Maputi nation in Lesotho. In Eastern Cape, they are an independent clan found within Matatiele, found within Mount Fletcher, found within Heschel. They were found also within Abatembu in huge numbers, Amamfen. They were also found within Amakos. Let me not deviate, guys. I'm still talking about white supremacy. I want to show you something about white South Africans. Let me play this because I need to finish the video. It's about white supremacy today.
95% European. Big surprise.
So this young man, Matthew Bode, is a South African, white South African. He's doing his DNA analysis now.
Just give me a second, it's loading. I am 95% European. Big surprise there. Of that, I'm 71%.
So he's 95% European, which already disproves their pure white race nonsense. 95% European, not 100% European. Already there's a mixture somewhere. This is a South African, which means if he has 5% non-European blood, that's not very, it's very clear there's a couple of his ancestors that are not white.
European, 12% Irish, 4% Eastern European, 3% Finnish, 2% British, 1% Iberian, which is Portugal and Spain, 1% Scandinavian, and 1% Greek and Italian. I've also got a few things that were quite unexpected, and that was 2% Asian. And of that Asian, I was 1% Central Asian and 1% South Asian. I was also 1% Pacific Islander, which was Melanesia, more specifically. And something that came as quite a shock, but I'm really proud of now, if I had known, I would have always been proud of it, but I am 2% African. Now, before I did this test, I'd always thought of myself as 100% European because I'd never really explored my genealogy or my family.
No, he is 100% Mzungu, but he's not 100% European. Mzungu and European is not the same thing. Even Arabs are Bazungu, because Mzungu simply is a wandering entity, a wandering spirit. Now, what this disproves is the fact that they think they are this pure Aryan race. They're not a pure race, nor are they a pure bloodline. They are a mixed race people who just hate that so much that they need to exist in this false narrative of white supremacy. White supremacy requires that they must declare themselves as poor European and pure European. Many other white people actually are colored, They just passed as white during apartheid. Many of them are coloreds who just passed as white. I actually went to school with one colored who had blonde hair and green eyes. I thought she was white at first. And then she told me that she stays in Mfuleni, which is a township. I'm like, eh. Then she told me that she's married to a Rwandan guy. I'm like, eh. All right. So now let's go back to Enhle Mbali and continue with white supremacy so that we don't lose direction. But this is a very important. I've got Kafurar. Black people know exactly. So Enhle Mbali comes out, openly says she's got Kafurar. She comes out, she openly says she's got Kafurar, and you black people, you understand. And I'm saying the way that she's speaking so comfortably is because she knows subconsciously that in the space of white supremacy, racism towards self is absolutely acceptable and even encouraged. It's absolutely acceptable and even encouraged. You have to be racist towards yourself to exist within the space of white supremacy. And this is why when you go to certain spaces, you go to hotels, you go to pharmacies in some places in Africa, the security guard are gonna take very, very high interest in you as a non-white, as a black person, or even as a colored person. And you find that the security guard is also black or even colored. The security guard is not gonna follow the white person. They're gonna follow you, because what are you doing in white spaces, motherfucker? What are you doing in white spaces, you bloody gaffer? This is a space for whiteness and us. I'm here to follow you around so that you are uncomfortable, so that you never come back. The security guard are literally going to enforce laws on you because you shouldn't be in these spaces. So I was this one time I went to my office this one time, some time ago. My office is in a hotel, quite nice hotel. It's a Marriott hotel. So I was going to my office. Yay! I can't go to the public toilets. My office is in the hotel. So I go to specific designated toilets, sorry. Every time I go to that toilet, I find a security guard has been sent to ask me what I'm doing there. So I ended up now expecting it. That when I go there, I will find a security guard waiting for me. So I'm like, no, I work here. This is the only toilet I will ever use. So you can follow me to my office if you want. Now, in my office, you need biometric access. So you can't just enter if you don't have your finger registered. Then that's the only time they'll leave you alone. Even in some malls and some other places, like white supremacy requires that the black security guards become extra strict to other black people. In universities, white supremacy requires that if you are black, the black security guards must be very strict towards you, even make your life difficult, even make your life a living hell, whereas they are so lenient towards everyone who's not black. They are so lenient towards everyone who's not black. That is white supremacy, guys. So let's hear what Dr. Hendrik Clark has to say. Please listen, guys. Please share the live. Please tap the screen. And I thank you guys for the gifts. Those who can gift, always please bring the gift coming. Keep the gift coming. They help me to continue making this. Even in estates, it's true. The security companies focus on you. And tell you what, a lot of the owners of these security companies are former apartheid police. A lot of the owners are former apartheid SADF members, by the way.
Waited at the hotel. I would love to be here when I can be more fully in depth on this subject, because there's a whole lot of illusions about Africa's relationship with other people in the world. There's a whole lot of illusion about our relationship to the religions in the world. And these belief systems that had its origin in Africa, all of them, and there is no exception, turned on African people. I said there is no exception. And there's one thing you have to get through your mind and keep it. Nothing that ever came from the European mind was meant to do anything but facilitate European domination of the world.
Nothing that ever came from the European mind had any agenda except to facilitate European domination of the world. Do you guys understand? Everything that has come from Europe has come for only one and only one purpose: world dominion. You South Africans, you Africans are busy creating dance challenges, giving them freely to South Koreans in their K-dramas or their performances. They're dancing amapiano. Whereas they hate you, they take what is yours. They hate you, but they take and profit from what is yours. I see people performing in stadiums for Springboks. They're doing dance challenges that come from Soweto, that come from Tembisa, dance challenges that come from KZN, in Umlazi, that come from Kwamashu, that come from Ekailicha. But I don't see the people of Tembisa in those stadiums performing those dance challenges. I don't see people from Umlazi. I don't see people from Kwamashu doing those dance challenges. So they take your bloody sweat and blood and profit off of it. Kalagata. They do kwara. They do amapiano dance, but the crazy thing is, They don't ever take the originators of those dances, give them the contracts. They don't ever do that because you are not business friendly. Your blackness is not business friendly. Your blackness is equal to poverty in the context of whiteness. I need you guys to understand whiteness is fixed in relation to blackness. Whiteness is fixed in relation to blackness. It is an absolute state of existence in relation to blackness. I need you guys to understand it. If we talk about white supremacy relative to blackness, it is a situation of absolutes. There's no gray area. It's an absolute reality. Whiteness is above, blackness is below. There's no maybe and in between. That's it. So there's nothing that came out of Europe for the benefit of you. Not even Christianity. Not even their technologies. Not even their ideologies. Not communism. Not capitalism. Not socialism. Not Leninism. Not Marxism. None of those ideas have anything to do with you. If you trace their origins, they all come from the same people. All of them. You could be a Marxist, Leninist, whatever, ist and schism and isms. Look at all the Marxists that we have in South Africa. Are they not benefiting the same Europeans who are dominating the country? Look at all the socialists we have. We have a South African Communist Party, which was actually it's owned by white people, the SACP. It literally incepted from inception. It was initiated by white people for white mine workers in the first place. I've been saying it. The so-called freedom fighters, your Helen Suzman, your Joe Slovo, these are European Jews, East African Jews. They have nothing to do with you. They have nothing in common with you. They will gain nothing from your liberty, except if you guarantee them. You have guarantees for them. Let's continue.
One thing you have to get through your mind and keep it. Nothing that ever came from the European mind was meant to do anything but facilitate European domination of the world. And I said there's no exception. Everything that was brought into this continent, everything, every idea, every so-called religion was meant to dominate and to control. The Arabs had no illusions about it. The Europeans had no illusions about it. You were the ones with the illusions. And yet every element that went into the making of every major religion in the world started in Africa. Why is it that you are so naive? You let people redress something that you invented, sell it back to you, and enslave you through it.
Guys, I need you to focus on the subject. I will deal with the question of Zulu being East African. I will deal with that. Don't debate it. It's not worth our time. I will deal with that. Don't worry. I will do a genetic analysis. Because we can't just say things loosely. It's dangerous, I will handle that. Zulus are East African. I will even explain what... Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to that. I will explain it. I don't want you guys to lose focus. This is the focus of today. I want you guys to we must understand what white supremacy is. Because even the categories we're using to now debate, those categories are also false. They are false white supremacist categories. They are false white supremacists. That's why you have Somalis today who will tell you that they are Caucasians, Bona. They were told that they were Caucasians. If you go to Somali indigenous cosmology, there's nothing that talks about Caucasoid history. They've got nothing to do with Caucasians. But the average Somali today will tell you that they're Caucasian people. Some Ethiopians who don't know who they are, who have not even read their own history, will tell you that they are Caucasians nowadays. But if you go to Ethiopia, you find 500 different groups of people who have different stories of origin. And then you ask, so who's Ethiopian? Until you realize that the name Ethiopia itself comes from the Greeks. Now let's focus. Because what you see happening. No. I understand. I understand about East Africa. I will explain it. Don't worry. I will explain it. East Africa and Southern Africa are connected, including connected even with queer people, including West Africa. But it's not a thing of 2025. It's a thing of hundreds and thousands of years. So it's something that you can't really address in one paragraph. You have to go back in time. Even some of the oldest societies here in South Africa, we talk about Kham, we talk about Kui, we talk about Khung. Some of them have genetic markers that are linked to West African societies. But if you go 3,000 years back, 4,000 years back, 5,000 years back, 6,000 years back in West Africa, there are communities that no longer exist nowadays. Same thing as East Africa. And I've said it long time ago that even in East Africa, there were click languages. Even in North Africa, there were click languages. They are no longer there now. So when people then will say, no, there are some genetic links between some Southern Africans and East Africans, it's not to say in 2025, a Zulu person is from Ethiopia. No. If you go back 3,000 years, the groups that you find in Southeast Africa, the groups that you found in Central Africa, the groups that you find in East Africa, the groups that you find in West Africa, if you go back 3,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 years, there are some links there. Regardless of whether you call them Bantu, you call them Kwe, you call them Kui, you call them whatever. All these groups genetically come from one source. But we'll go into that. It's not just East Africans. Even some African Americans have Kwe ancestry. I repeat, even some African Americans, a lot of them actually, have Kwe ancestry, have Southern African, Central African ancestry. So this is not when you talk about Zulu, you need to understand it's a polity of Southern Africa. Zulu people have never existed anywhere else outside of South Africa. They were formed in South Africa, Zulu people, just like Xhosa people. So if you're gonna go back 3,000 years, there are no Zulu people by then. The ancestors of the people who became Zulu, yes, they are there. But the Zulu as a polity is a South African polity. Just like the Xhosa, just like the Xora. These are South African polities. So when people talk about these groups, they talk about these groups. No, these are South African groups who were formed here, have only existed here. The only reason they're outside of South Africa is because they moved from South Africa. Now let's go back to the topic because I feel like we're wasting time on something that's futile.
Why is it that you are so naive? You let people redress something that you invented, sell it back to you, and enslave you through it.
How can you let people take something from you, sell it back to you, and then enslave you with it? It's very simple, guys. How can Anglo Gold, Ashanti, Anglo-American, De Beers, how can they take your gold, your platinum, your diamonds, go process them, sell them back to you at 200 times the price, and you have to go and take a loan to buy that bloody ring to propose as South African Indigenous woman, as a South African Indigenous man, as an African man? You buy a piece of gold that was taken from your ancestral lands, processed, and then sold back to you. How come? How come you accept that? That is white supremacy. White supremacy is economics. White supremacy is not just color and hair texture. It's economics.
I'm saying that all organized present religions are male chauvinist murder cults. And I say there is no exception.
All organized religions are murder cults. They are cults. They are cults. All major religions are cults. That's it. This is Dr. John Henry Clark.
Well, I wanted to be here earlier. I wanted to deal with our relationship with the people of the world, and the fact that we created peaceful nations that had no word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. No word for old people's home because no one ever threw away grandma and grandpa. No word for orphanages. We did all of this, and over half of human civilization was over before we knew that a European was in the world. Before he wore a shoe or lived in a house that had a window. Now, Africa has always and still is the prize for the whole world. We as a people have always been the world's richest people, culturally rich, mineral rich. We have always been the prize because we have always had and still have something that other people won't, think they can't do without, and don't care to pay for. Because we have always been the prize, we have been under siege.
So, you see, guys, what Dr. Clark is saying. Black people are the prize. And this is why I always explain white supremacy, that white supremacy does not exist in absence of blackness. It exists in the presence of blackness. Because white supremacy requires its maintenance, its worship comes from those who are not white. It requires that the non-whites in the room acknowledge it, worship it, bow down to it. So he says we are under siege because we are the prize. They are not wiping us out anytime soon. They are just detaching us from our essence. They are stripping you naked of ubuntu bakho. So they will do by all means to make you embarrassed and feel humiliated for existing. They will make you feel embarrassed and humiliated and ashamed of existing. So it's not meant to take you out. It's meant to diminish your essence. That is to say, bayakutwebula abelungu. Bayakutwebula. Dr. John Hendrik Clark. You have no friends. Abelungu bakutwebula ingqondo. Bakutwebula, they are literally capturing your mind. So whiteness needs to exist through you as a vessel. It's like religion, which is actually whiteness. Religion needs you to spread it. It needs you to talk about it, to go and evangelize people. It's not a matter of people observing you and feeling like, wow, that's a great religion. No, you go and tell them why it's great. That's white supremacy. You become an angel of white supremacy as a black person who has been properly oppressed and conquered.
For over 3,000 years, nothing that ever brought into Africa from the outside was meant to do the African any good. That means all other religions. Islam was the handmaiden of Arab imperialism. Christianity was the handmaiden of European imperialism. The Hebrew faith was the handmaiden of a concept called the chosen people. Now, if God is kind and God is merciful and God has no stepchildren, he won't choose one over the other.
That's it. So what Dr. Clark is saying is that nothing that comes out of Africa came for Africa's benefit. If there's anything that came out of Africa into Africa, if there's anything that came out of South Africa into South Africa, that came for the benefit of South Africans, tell me what it is. Helen Zille, the Jew from Germany, says colonialism was good because roads were built. She doesn't believe that. She wants you to copy that and say it, because that's what black people do. They copy everything that the white master says. Oh, the ANC is dividing us. White people say it. 2 months later, every black person is going to say that. The ANC say it is dividing us, guys. A white person says, the politicians are dividing us. black people 2 months later, all of them on TikTok, the politicians are dividing us. We are united. It's not the politicians who are dividing you. I'm sorry. It's not the ANC. Alexander and Sentin are not divided by the ANC. Khayelitsha and Kemsbe are not divided by the ANC. KwaMashu and Umhlanga is not divided by the ANC. It's by design. The system is designed to keep these two separate, because to exist in the context of whiteness, you need to occupy the lesser position. In the mind of a white supremacist, you need to occupy a lesser position up to the point of absolute irrelevance. That's the perfection of white supremacy, which is Christian nationalism. White supremacy, which is Nazism. White supremacy, which is fascism. White supremacy, which is Trumpism today, which is also apartheid. The perfection of that system is when you internally understand that your only duty is to occupy a space of absolute irrelevance and immaterial existence in the society of whiteness. That is to say, if you are walking on the pavement and 2 white people are coming in front of you, you need to know it without a prompt. You need to know that it is your duty to move out of the way. That's the perfection of white supremacy. If you're standing next to a white person in a building full of white people, you need to know that the only jokes that are acceptable are jokes that are racist to black people. That's the perfection of white supremacy. White supremacy is perfected when blackness is erased by the black people themselves without any prompt. And all the whites can do is observe and laugh. Because black people are in a perpetual psychological state of seeking validation from the very same thing that tells them they shouldn't exist. When you find yourself in that perpetual state of seeking validation through religion, seeking validation through conspicuous consumption, you're buying Gucci bags, you're buying your VW from Germany, which is a Nazi company, by the way. You're wearing Adidas from up to bottom, which is a Nazi company, by the way. You're wearing gold chains left, right, and center, which are not mined by you, processed by you, value added by you, and sold by you. They are only mined by you because they're a servant, and then they're processed elsewhere and then sold back to you. What happened to the gold that our ancestors used to dig, which we called abambo, amalala? What happened to the gold we used to smell? What happened to that? You're busy buying big gold chains because you want to be seen as having things, aka mamkiz. The perfection of white supremacy is when your blackness understands that it has no place of existence in the system of white supremacy. And therefore, in the context of white supremacy, you must diminish your blackness. You must change your accent. You must hide the size of your lips in a Zoom meeting or on your Microsoft Teams meeting. Speak like this, like Gabrielle Union. Yeah, yo, guys. Yeah, Oaks, my name is Lucanio, but you can call me Luke. You're not Luke, ungu Lucanio. Mas send a bog. Ungu Lucanio. You are not Q, ungu Kawekazi. Why are you calling yourself Q? Why are you calling yourself Q? I've seen a lot of Eastern Europeans and Nordic Europeans with names like Alexander, Olex. They don't change the pronunciation of their names for you. I know this other philosopher, his name is Zizek Slavoy. Zizek Slavoy. He doesn't change his name and say, no, I'm Zed, just call me Zed. No, he's Zizek Slavoy. You will say that name whether you know how to or not. You will learn to say that name. But you, because you innately understand, that in the context of whiteness, your existence must be diminished for whiteness to approve of you. And therefore, in seeking this perpetual validation from whites, some have even formed political parties. We just want a seat at the table. Why do you want a seat at the table? We just want a seat at the table. Oh no, guys, just a seat at the table. And the first chance you get as a radical African, you send your child to their schools. Ah, no, my child goes to St. John's College. Oh no, they go St. David Marist. No, my child go to St. Stithians. Oh no, my go to St. Cyprian's. It's a prestigious institution. And they come out of those schools, they're even more self-hating than ever before. They're like, what's wrong with us black people? Let's see what other thought leaders had said. Let's see what Steve Biko had to say about this.
Come as a result of a program worked out. Changes which are to come can only come as a result of a program worked out.
Let's see what Steve Biko has to say.
Changes which are to come can only come as a result of a program worked out by black people. And for black people to be able to work out a program, they need to defeat the one main element in politics which was working against them, and this was the psychological feeling of inferiority. So
guys, do you understand what this man is saying? He's saying we understood that changes which are to come. This is bantu bonke wakwabiko, Khamela, Nokwindla, Cancashe, Gadluma, Tyhopho, Malamba Enhle. I'm related to him. Umgcina lo ngixhamela ngokwindla nguNcancashe. Utyhopho lo Malamba Enhle, uMalamba Edlile. Adle inyamakazi. Athi ziziduli zethafa madoda. Awu! Ntwana igazi, Camagu. He says changes which are to come, they can only come by a program set out by the natives themselves. He's not saying that the government, he's not saying that, oh, the billionaires must put money for us, bursary from Alan Gray. He's not saying that Rob Herzog must invest in this podcast. He's not saying that, oh no, where are the South African millionaires? Why are they not investing in me? Listen to what he's saying.
changes which are to come can only come as a result of a program worked out by black people.
No, he's definitely Kwe, this one. He's Kwe, he's proper Kwe. Kwe, for that matter. He's from the Twin Nation, the Gcina people. Amagcina. The Gcina Khamela people. Gcina means twin. Khamela means the one person in two, which is a twin. It comes from the Twin Nation. Let's hear what this indigenous South African is saying. They unalived him just like the other queer indigenous South African, Chris Hani, from the Chonyane people of Qunukwa people. They are related to the Nama, those ones actually.
Changes which are to come can only come as a result of a program worked out by black people. And for black people to be able to work out a program, they need to defeat the one main element in politics which was working against them, and this was a psychological feeling of inferiority.
Someone is saying the Khoisan are not indigenous, they are mixed. Oh no, I don't know. I wouldn't talk for Khoisans. I don't even know what Khoisans are. I'm talking about Steve Biko. He's Khamela, he's Kwe. He's not Khoisan. Steve Biko is Kwe, and Chris Hani is Qunukwa. Khoisans, I think they can answer them for themselves. Whoever is a Khoisan. I've never heard of such people in my whole life. It's not even a real word in my language. So I only talk about the indigenous people that I know. Like my ancestors, the ancestors of Steve Biko, the ancestors of Chris Hani, the ancestors of Phil Mbali, the ancestors of Gwede Mantashe, the ancestors of Shaka. Those ones I know, but I don't know Khoisans. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think they can answer for themselves. So what Steve Biko is saying is, changes can only come. They can only come by a program that is worked out by the same indigenous people who are oppressed. Changes can only come by a program worked out by the same people who are oppressed. But for those changes to come and for that program to come into fruition, they need to overcome something. Guys, you need to listen. Stop talking about Khoisan in my life now. I don't want anyone to talk about Khoisan. You talk about Khoisan, I block you. This is not a live but some Khoisan stupidity here. Stop talking about Khoisan or I block you. Masinganyelani. This is the biggest problem with you people. Anything that talks to white supremacy, it makes you tremble and shake. You want to deviate. Every minute we talk about white supremacy, you want to deviate. You want to talk about all the stupidity that does not exist, except the one thing that exists, which is white oppression. They're literally running your bloody life, and all you want to talk about is some stupid Khoisan nonsense. You are blocked, Nellen. You are dumb. I don't like dumb people because I've never been dumb in my life. I've always been a very smart person. So I can't tolerate stupidity. I'm sorry. I can tolerate ignorance, but not stupidity. Let's hear what this guy is saying. And we are going to hear.
And for black people to be able to work out a program, they need to defeat the one main element in politics which was working against them.
What is the one element that Steve Biko was talking about that was working against black people? What is that one element?
And this was a psychological feeling of inferiority.
A psychological feeling of inferiority. So it is the mind. And it manifests everywhere and anywhere. I've got kafir har. Master, see me. Your little monkey is dancing for you. I've got kafir har, master. Please accept me into your circle, master. This is what Biko is addressing. You know what she prefaced this with? Before she said that, she says, I can say this because I'm black. And the master is happy. The Caucasoid is very happy. They're like, yeah, make fun of yourself. Yo kafir har. Yo kafir har.
The colored people know exactly what I mean as.
I like how she's also including colored. I think some of the white leaning colors were so angry. This one, like, hey, don't include us when. Guys, Enhle Mbali is such a delusional piece of work. I remember watching her on this other thing on Netflix. She was busy doing some fake accent there. I'm like, why do you feel the need to be anti-self? But that is the essence of white supremacy. When it has come inside of you, it possesses your mind. It is a living, consuming creature that is inside of you. That's white supremacy. It possesses your mind. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That is true. So when Biko says here that abantu abantsundu, for them to be able to free themselves, they have to actually, where is this now? They have to overcome first the psychological. But to overcome the psychological, you need to understand how it came about. Now let's go back in time. Let's go back in time and understand. Oh, firstly, this is a Zanzibar, by the way. This is an East African. Just look. This is a slave from East Africa, from Zanzibar, in the 1800s. So do you understand why now East Africans will lean towards whiteness as well? They will worship whiteness at any chance they get. They will lean towards whiteness at any chance they get. Do you understand how that comes about? It became through chains. Look at this. He is chained. This is a punishment, by the way, from his Arab or Horn of Africa. Horn African person. That was a punishment. He did something wrong. Maybe he drank too much water than he was supposed to. Maybe he farted. Any futile little thing. Any futile little thing, that's how they used to get punished. But let's go back. Let's go back and understand there's something I want you guys to understand called Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is a form of religious nationalism that focuses on promoting the cultural and the Christian views of its followers in order to achieve prominence or dominance in political, cultural, and social life. Political, cultural, and social life. That's why they will demonize your culture. They will demonize lobola as you buying a wife. They will demonize imbeleko. They will demonize your language as being a heathen language, a demonic language. That's what they did. Because white supremacy is not only concerned with color, it's concerned with politics, with culture, social, and they removed economics as well. White supremacy is economic. White supremacy does not allow for the whites to be the waiters and waitresses. Now let's go to South Africa and understand Christian nationalism in South Africa. Let's go and understand it. Let's go to South Africa because you need to understand. Here in South Africa, the future leader of the National Party and apartheid Prime Minister of South Africa, B.J. Vorster, in 1942. What did John Vorster say? Listen to this. I'm just going to open it now. I'm going to highlight it quickly. These are the words of John Vorster in 1942. This is what white South Africans stand for. We stand for Christian nationalism, which is an ally of National Socialism. What is National Socialism? I will help you understand. I will help you understand what National Socialism is, so that you understand what South African white people stand for. Now, here it is, guys. Here it is. This is what National Socialism is. National Socialism, Nazism, formerly named National Socialism or National Socialismus. Nazi. That's how you get Nazism. The system that Hitler made famous. This is the system that South African white society stands for. We stand for Christian nationalism, which is an ally of Nazism, basically. Christian nationalism is another word for apartheid, guys. Christian nationalism is another word for apartheid. Let's look at something. Let's look at why Servitude said Bantu must be hewers of wood. Let's see where he got that from. See this title here, Hendrik Verwoerd's dream of black people as hewers of wood and drawers of water has become our nightmare. But let's go to Bible Hub and see if we can find something. Let's go to Bible Hub and see if we can find something similar to what Hendrik Verwoerd was saying. Joshua 9:27. Let's go to the KJV or NKJV. And that day Joshua made them wood cutters. No. And Joshua made them that day hewers of wood and drawers of water for the congregation and for the altar. These were basically remnants from a cleansing, an ethnic cleansing. No? So what the Afrikaner government had in mind in their idea of Christian nationalism was to reduce the people of this country so much that their only purpose in society is to be hewers of wood and fetchers of water. So this is the words of John Foster, who ended up becoming the prime minister after Hendrik Verwoerd was killed, by the way. We stand for Christian nationalism, which is Nazism, which is an ally of Nazism. You can call this anti-democratic principle dictatorship. Guys, these are white people. They are telling you that they believe in dictatorship, if you wish. He says in Italy, it is called fascism. In Germany, National Socialism. In South Africa, Christian nationalism. So John Foster is equating fascism, Nazism, and apartheid. Let's look at what fascism is. Let's look at what fascism is. Fascism is a far-right, authoritarian, and ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement that rose to prominence in the early 20th century Europe. Fascism is characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in natural social hierarchy, which means men must be in power, women must obey the man, blacks must obey the whites. That's what fascism is. So apartheid and fascism and Nazism, you see, this is a fascist. Guess who's missing here? Hendrik Verwoerd. I'm still drinking some water, guys. This is Benito Mussolini, the fascist of Italy. And this is Adolf Hitler, the Nazi Germany Führer. Guess who's missing? Hendrik Verwoerd, the apartheid architect of South Africa. Because these three systems are the same thing. And now they've been revived by none other than, and it's not just him, by the way, he's just made it bold. All the other leaders before him, they were doing the same thing. All the other leaders before him were doing the exact same thing to restore Christian nationalism, which is apartheid, which is Nazism, which is what? Which is fascism. He's reviving that boldness. This is why South Africa has tariffs. It's got nothing to do. It's got nothing to do with white genocide nonsense. They don't give a damn about no white genocide. They just want white people to be in power again. Now I'm going to show you guys a post that I was reading. I'm going to show you a post that I was reading some time back. We're going to read it together. It says, many do not understand why the USA is going down this route of imposing sanctions on South Africa and speculate on it simply being about one issue or another. Many also believe that this is simply just a Trump thing. They are very wrong. Trump did not just put sanctions in South Africa because he can. No. It's a program that started long ago, since the days of the Bushes. This entire thing is a 35-year history, which means ever since the whites lost some political power, therefore there was a project to restore that. Hence the 35-year-old history. And it gained traction under Biden. And Trump is hammering home the nails on the lead. It has everything to do with the loss of white power in South Africa. And it attempts to step by step claw it back. So white power in South Africa is intricately linked to white power in every other place in the world. It is intricately linked to white power in every other place in the world. So I'm going to play some videos now for you guys to see what these people have done, because we're doing a background check now. But before we do a background check, let's go back to the religious origin of some of these things. Remember when I was talking about Embo, there's a book called Atlas Asia or Portuguese Asia, something like that. It's a book from the 1400s. It talks about some of the Portuguese invaders who came to Mozambique and Southeast Africa and KZN and Eastern Cape and Cape Town in the 1400s. Those invaders like Dalmeida, those invaders like Da Gama, they didn't come out of their own will. Those people came because the church in Europe allowed them to come. Now, there's something called the Romanus Pontifex, which means the Roman pontiff. It is the title of 3 papal bulls, which means these are bulls from the Pope. The first one was issued in 1436 by Pope Eugenius IV. A second Romanus Pontifex was issued in 1451 by Pope Nicholas V, relieving the Dukes of Austria, blah, 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 blah. But then this one now, this papal bull, it's what you guys need to be concerned about, because this is the approval of modern white supremacy in Africa in 1455. Another in 1455 by Nicholas V, praising Catholic King Afonso V of Portugal for his battles against the Muslims, and also endorsing his military expeditions into Western Africa and instructing him to capture and subdue all Saracens, Arabs, Turks, Turkic peoples, and other non-Christians, basically kafirs. Non-Christians means kafir, by the way. Kafir, they use the word kafir to mean an infidel, same way that the Arabs, the Muslims, are using it. Kafir were used by the Christians the same way it was used by the Muslims. That's why the Afrikaners use the word kafir, because they are Christian nationalists, which means white supremacists. So the Pope endorsed King Alfonso of Portugal to capture and subdue all non-Christians and reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. The church leaders argue that slavery served as a natural deterrent and Christianizing, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this is Pope Papa Nicolo. Papa Nicolo is the one who wrote these things, these 2 things. Papa Nicolo V. If you go and research about it, let's see. If you go and research about it, just a basic research, the papal bull explicitly authorized the enslavement of non-Africans. But it was not just an enslavement. It was perpetual enslavement, which means enslavement that never ends. It was an enslavement that never ends. It was the Pope Nicholas V. So when they come to Mozambique, when they come to Natal, what they call Natal, when they come to the Eastern Cape, you think they are coming there to give you Christianity, to give you civilization, to build you roads, to teach you. No, they didn't give a damn about that nonsense. They came for an agenda, and it's clearly working. Because if you look at the people who are victims right now, their status, their state of existence is nothing below sad. It's nothing but sad. Let's see now this video, it explores some of the crimes of these people. It explores some of the crimes of these people.
View and what our own hearts imagine, even if it's all lies.
On a daily basis, we are bombarded with images of people that the West and Europeans refer to as terrorists, thugs, and savages. But those that are making such reports fail to include their track record and the background of their own people. Let's go back in history and uncover the truth and expose the lies that were hidden. If you carefully look at the things that were done to blacks in slavery, you can see just how it has totally affected the lives of the blacks in America. Black families suffered greatly as a result of white slave masters raping the black women. She no doubt felt like her husband was helpless and that he could not protect her or her daughters. The black man, no doubt he was feeling like he couldn't defend his family. Just imagine how he felt and how they felt after the master was done violently raping his wife.
The picture, y'all. Why don't everybody smile?
To sleep with her as he wills. He literally just went to take the woman to sleep with her as he desires. It happened even here in South Africa. It happened even here in South Africa. That's why you have a story such as Sarah Bartman. That's literally what they did. They unalived her with sexualization. They took her at a very young age. It's not only her. There are many, many others. I know their names. But in the interest of time, this is exactly what they did. But it did not begin in America. Remember, Spain and Portugal, during the Spanish Inquisition of Queen Isabella, they were stripping babies from their mothers. They took some of those victims, they sent them to Africa, to Congo, to Angola. If you guys think these things started in 1652, you have to think again. You need to go back in time. Where do you think those black families of Europe, those noble black families, where do you think they are? They were also wiped out. Some of them were actually slave traders themselves. If you think this started in the 1500s, also you go back in time. So the modern day white supremacy as you know it, it's definitely an invention of the 1400s. It's an invention of the 1400s. Part of it has to do with revenge. Because we do know that part of Europe was also conquered by some people of color, like the Carthaginians. Like the Carthaginians and the Moors. You had the Blacker Moors and the Tani Moors. Yes. So part of this brutality comes as a revenge because, you know, of what happened to them. I'm sure you'd have heard about the Slavic people who were sold, and therefore the name slave ended up meaning someone who gets sold. Yes, the Morrisons, the Douglases. Those are actually black nobilities of Europe. In the interest of time, I'm just going to play a few more clips. Just a few more clips and then we can take it from there.
Christopher Columbus was not the first to discover the Americas, nor was he the first to realize that the earth is round. He was the first, however, in other exploits, namely genocide and the transatlantic slave trade. In 1492, Columbus discovered the Americas when he landed in Haiti and several islands in the Caribbean. The Arawak Indians inhabited these islands. For the second voyage to Haiti, the following year, 1493, Ferdinand and Isabella gave him the resources needed to subdue the population.
So he was given resources, by Ferdinand and Isabella. The same Isabella who's unaliving people there in Europe at that time, sending some of those people to Africa. The same Isabella who gave funding to Christopher Columbus to come and conquer the new so-called New World. He's also unaliving people in Europe. He's exiling them to Africa by the same time. So the idea that these things were happening in isolation to each other is complete nonsense. All these oppressions that were happening were a coordinated network between royal families of Europe. The Dutch royal family, the Spanish royal family, because a lot of them are also cousins anyway. They marry each other. They are inbred cousins. You find the king of Russia is literally the cousin of the queen of Germany. She's the cousin of the king of the Netherlands, the cousin of this. So all the things they were doing in South Africa, in the Americas, in Asia, in the Middle East, it's all connected. They were all doing the same thing at the same time.
Population. When he returned to Haiti, Columbus demanded food, gold, and cotton thread, and was increasingly met with resistance. This resistance gave him the opportunity he needed to declare war on the Arawaks. With 20 hunting dogs, horses, and guns, Columbus set upon the Arawaks, tearing them up with dogs and mowing them down with volleys of bullets, and running them over with horses. Reporting back to Queen Isabel of Spain, Columbus boasted, "In the name of the Holy Trinity, we can send from here all the slaves that Brazil will hold." The Spaniards hunted Indians for sport and murdered them for dog food. Columbus would reward his officers with women to rape. Girls 10 to 12 were especially...
They hunted the Native Americans for sport, which means for fun. They hunted the Native Americans for fun. That is the exact same thing they did here in the Cape Colony. They were hunting the indigenous people for fun. You know? Because they are the law unto themselves with no consequences. Not only did they hunt the Native Americans, they took black babies and used them for hunting as bait. So when they were hunting alligators in America, and they still do it to this day, like just, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, they cut off a Native American man's head, and not even a single news agency reported on it. But when Charlie Kirk, the racist moron, was murdered by his own words, because he said public executions should come back and should be televised. He said that gun deaths are better because at least we can protect the First Amendment or Second Amendment, whichever the amendment is. I think there's about 10 amendments, I don't remember. He's the one who supported that. Somehow now everyone must mourn this moron's death, including black South Africans like the cult-minded Rorisang and all the other minions who can't think for themselves.
Desired for rape. Columbus and the Spanish won the war, and over 3 million Arawaks were killed in the genocide. They completely robbed the land of its gold.
And this is not the only genocide they did. You know what they did in Congo. I think they killed like 9 million people in Congo. You know what they did in Namibia with the Nama and Herero genocide. They committed Xhosa genocide, Kwe genocide, Kurikikwa genocide, Zulu genocide, Tonga genocide, Sotho genocide, Batlaping genocide. There's so many massacres they did. We call them massacres in South Africa. Sharpeville massacre. We call them massacres. The Bullhook massacre. But in reality, these are genocides that these people have been committing. Debele, all of them. There's different groups that they genocided. There's not even one group they spared in South Africa. Not even one group they spared. Walanga, they committed genocide. Yes, all the different groups are Mahlubi. They committed genocide wherever they went. Just like they're doing right now in Palestine.
This is the truth about Columbus that's not recorded in your history books.
On the other hand, most Americans know today is Columbus Day, at least in 47 states, although Hawaii has renamed it Discoverers Day after the original Polynesians who populated that island thousands of years ago. South Dakota calls it Native American Day, and Alaska just ignores it like they kind of do everything. But what we're really celebrating today is Taino Genocide Day. the day when Christopher Columbus began to wipe out an entire indigenous population in a way that would even make Pol
So you see, he actually committed genocide against the Taino people.
Pot blush. In 1492, Columbus was on a manic hunt for gold when he set sail and eventually landed on a small island off the coast of North and South America, an island today named Hispaniola, which is split between the nations of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. As Columbus wrote in a letter to the King and Queen of Spain, "Gold is most excellent. Gold constitutes treasure. And he who has it does all he wants in the world and can even lift souls up to paradise." But when he landed in what he called the New World, there wasn't much gold to be found. But he did find something he thought was just as good.
Let's go
Have
further.
been taken from their land. 100 years ago, the Herero people of Namibia were nearly exterminated by German colonial soldiers. Herero people have been taken from their land.
Let's look at the Herero and let's look at some of the genocides they committed.
I charge the white man with being the greatest swine eater on this earth, the greatest drunkard on this earth. He can't deny the charges. You can't deny the charges. We're the living proof of those charges. You and I are the proof. You're not an American.
Great Britain, the United States, and other European nations have left a trail of theft and genocide throughout the world. People have been displaced from islands and lands, and billions of dollars in diamonds, gold, copper, rubber, and other fine resources have been taken from their land. 100 years ago,
This is the Herero and Nama genocide in Namibia, committed by Germany. To this day, Germany has not paid reparations, but they pay reparations for the Jews.
Herero people of Namibia were nearly exterminated by German colonial soldiers.
And then people dare to ask, why is Namibia so empty? Where are the people gonna come from when they were genocided? Where are they gonna come from, guys? They were literally wiped out.
The Herero people of Namibia were nearly exterminated by German colonial soldiers in what has become known as the first genocide of the 20th century. In the colonial period, the Herero men, women, and children of Namibia were rounded up like cattle and put into Germany's first ever concentration camps. 4 years later, 3/4 of the entire Herero nation had perished.
75% of the Herero people were wiped out. Just like 70% of the Cape population in the first 30 years of European arrival were wiped out. That's genocide, guys. That is genocide. 75% of Herero people were wiped out. Only the quarter of these people remained.
At the hands of German colonialists. The Nazis used the experiences from the German concentration camps in Namibia.
So the genocide in Namibia was a training session for the Nazis. Then they took those lessons and used it against the Jews. But I guess then Jewish life to the Germans is more valuable. And that's white supremacy right there. White supremacy says crimes are not equal. Even if you kill the same number of people in the exact same way, the ones that are white are more valuable. So you unalive Jews and you repay them. You unalive Nama people and Herero people and you never repay them. Do you understand how that's so messed up?
Plus their experiences with racial science during the Second World War a few decades later. This was all brought out in the documentary called 100 Years of Silence. The central figure of 100 Years of Silence is a contemporary 23-year-old Herero woman named Georgina. She has a fair complexion and a green tinge to her eyes. Georgina is aware of the fact that her great-grandmother was raped by a German soldier and now wants to confront the demons of her own genetic past.
That's what they did in Namibia. And then the Belgians went to the Congo they did another genocide. Yes.
Between 1885 and 1908, King Leopold II of Belgium turned Congo into its private colony. Under his control, Congo became a gulag labor camp of shocking brutality. Leopold posed as the protector of Africans fleeing Arab slave traders, but...
Do you hear what he's saying? He says he was a protector of Africans. He was a protector of Africans from the Arabs. Just like the UK and America today are trying to protect Africans from China. So basically what the premise of this is that Africans are subhuman creatures who cannot protect themselves and therefore need protection from other people. That's what they're saying. In essence, Africans are subhuman creatures, little monkeys who need protection from Europeans. By force.
In reality, he carved out an empire based on terror to harvest rubber. Families were held as hostages, starving to death if the men failed to produce enough wild rubber.
In fact, there was a genocide even here in the Eastern Cape, a Xhosa genocide, by the orders of Sir Graham. By the orders of Sir Graham, the one after whom they named the town Grahamstown. That's one of the genocides that took place. That led to the uprising of Amandlambe through the advice of Enhle, who then was captured to Robben Island and died in Blobeck Strand as he was trying to escape Robben Island together with David Stearman. Enhle offered his own life against a genocide that was committed in the Eastern Cape by the orders of Sir Graham. That's why they named that place Grahamstown. I don't even count the number of genocides that Harry Smith, yes, Hans Trompeter, yes, that's why they named that place Trompeter's Drift. Hans Trompeter was actually the brother-in-law of Enhle. They were all brothers-in-law, those people. I'm not even counting the genocides that Harry Smith committed. Sakwit, he was called Sakwit. The genocides he committed in the Eastern Cape, I don't even count them.
Children's hands were chopped off as punishment for late deliveries. What the Belgians did in the Congo was forgotten for over 50 years. This is a shocking truth about European history, that the Belgian government would rather stay hidden from the rest of the world.
The Belgian government will never admit to this, together with the Congolese government. The Congolese government is probably eating money from Belgium right now. They are probably eating money from Belgium right now. They are probably being hosted in 5-star hotels in Belgium so that they never demand. And conscientize their populace. So that they never conscientize the people of Congo to understanding the sheer magnitude of the crimes committed against them. Thank you, Observer. Thank you very much. So, that's another thing, guys. I need you guys to go and learn about slavery. Go and read the letters of the king of Congo, King Alfonso, when Congo was still a kingdom. When Congo was still a kingdom, the king of Congo accepted Christianity and started selling indigenous people to Europeans. He was a Christian and he sold people to slavery. The king of Congo, Alfonso I. He bloody sold his fellow indigenous Africans. Thank you, Nondwaiza, very much. Thank you for the gifts. The first one was not biracial. The first one was black. Maybe the descendants were biracial. But the first one to accept Christianity was a black man. He bowed before the Pope and he allowed Europeans to take slaves in his own country. He allowed them. Yes, he did. There are letters that he wrote when they were starting to take from his own bloodline now. Hey, he was starting to plead with Europeans. Please don't take too much from my people. Please. No, Europeans don't give a damn, Baba. That's how white supremacy operates. White supremacy operates from a place of self-sacrifice. You need to sacrifice yourself. You You see, the children of Njinga, they are Muzungus now, they are white. That's what's going to happen to the children of Siakolisi as well. Huh? Oh, my people. Thank you.
Between 1870 and 1900, the Congo was pillaged. It was valuable as a source of rubber. King Leopold created his own colony in the Congo, over which he ruled unchecked. Peter Bates' film, Congo, White King, Red Rubber, Black Death, is a marvelously made reconstruction of those days. It features footage of Congolese villages and explains with actors exactly what happened.
When a series of missionary photographs arrived in England in the late...
Also, guys, we must remember the missionaries didn't give a damn about you and becoming Christian. The missionaries were spies. They were secret agents. Like the CIA today. Like the MI5 and the MI6 today. Like Mossad today. They were spies. But because they came holding a book and not a sword, the kings were susceptible and gullible to accept them. They were susceptible and gullible to accept them, gave them lands, and that was the beginning of the end. The end of our indigenous societies was the acceptance of missionaries into our lands. The beginning of the freedom of the people will be the reversing of that curse. Reverse the curse of missionaries. Reverse the curse of missionaries. Reverse the curse of missionaries. Reverse the curse of bloody missionaries. How do you do that? What did the missionaries establish first? What was their first action to establish schools? Schools? What were the schools for? For programming the mind using a book. So you first clean out the bloody education system. You pluck out the roots of the evil that the children are being taught, that the adults are being taught. The missionaries were here to teach self-hatred, teach self-destruction, teach white supremacy. And they did such a splendid job at it that even today, almost all the royal families in South Africa still bow down to the teachings of the missionaries. All of them. That's why the royals in South Africa are just shadows. They are just shadows, like they are just a suggestion. They are not real. The royal families are not real. They have no power. They have no law. They have no authority. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. So you reverse the first curse that landed. You cannot be taught by the same people who want to take you out. How can you allow your enemies to teach you? How can you allow your enemies to teach you? No, guys, think about it. Think about it. True, the councillors, the municipal councillors have more power than the Inkos in villages and the Induna and the Usbonda. The councillors have more power than the people who were selected by the royal families to represent the will. Now the kings are drunkards and they're drug addicts, some of them. Because they have no value, they're offering no value, they have no power, they have no authority. 25 different kings in one country and absolutely no indigenous program of action. What kind of kings are those? Here's a king, a real king, who did real crimes to our people. Not even one king in Africa has stood up and asked this guy to pay back. Hey, these children are making noise outside. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. It's like they are possessed by the spirit of white supremacy to disturb me now. Yay, yay, yay. So, this is King Leopold. This is King Leopold, and he built the wealth of his family on the backs of these people's blood. How can a king tell people to not be afraid of the New World Order? Hey, my people. Yeah. They are whited. Someone said the descendants of Queen Jinga are white now. Look at the name of this. Whited out. I know it puts me in danger. I know that. I know what I'm saying puts me in danger. But it has to be said. Yeah, umesuzulu. But in abanye bathi nguwisizulu, wisuzulu. Not sure. Someone said wisuzulu yesterday. He said people must not be afraid of the New World Order. That's what happens when kings are political prostitutes to the government. When kings depend on government donations, government in salaries, then they have no real power and they have no will to serve the people. Let's continue. So we need to first undo the first curse, reverse the curse of the missionaries. The missionaries came with books. So the power is in the books then. If they were able to subdue the bloodlines that were meant to rule over and safeguard this land using books first and foremost, therefore we need to go to the books. Because the books do not rot. The books do not rot. The books do not wither. The books, the knowledge in the book stays there. And if it's not challenged very decisively, I promise you, hey, isizwe siyabola.
19th century, they caused outrage. The mutilations had been strategically photographed against white for maximum impact. The children came from the Congo, but the man accused of their suffering was white, European, and royal. For almost 100 years, evidence has lain dormant of one of the greatest mass murders. Millions of Africans died in one man's quest for wealth and glory. Until Adolf Hitler arrived on the scene, the European standard for cruelty was set by a king. Leopold II, King of the Belgians, was the personal owner of 1 million square miles of Central Africa and king sovereign of 20 million Africans.
It is still, I say so as well, it is still the most brutal thing ever.
The world outside Africa.
But remember, white supremacy cannot allow the white supremacist system to say King Leopold is the most brutal man, because he did not kill whites. He did not kill people that have proximity to whiteness. So Hitler has to be the most bad, the worst of them all. Purely because in the system of white supremacy, whiteness is more valuable than any other form of identity, form of political identity. So King Leopold, even if he had killed 50 million Africans, he would still not be the most brutal person. Hitler would still be the most brutal person. Why? Because of Hitler's victims, primary victims. Hitler did kill black people a lot. He hated black people, actually. He hated black people. He hated black people. And apparently he was a drug addict. But that's for another day. But his primary victims are Mayuda. Therefore, he has to be the most evil man. Because then that aligns properly with the system of white supremacy.
Wanted rubber for its new bicycle and car industries. And Leopold's Congo Free State had the world's largest supply of wild rubber. The king had struck gold, black gold. He was determined to get as much rubber to Europe as he could, and as fast as he could.
The rubber in this district has cost hundreds of lives. And the scenes I have witnessed while unable to help the oppressed have been almost enough to make me wish that I were dead.
Over a period of 20 years, Leopold turned the Congo into a vast labor camp 80 times the size of Belgium, in the process making himself into one of the richest men in the world. As the number of deaths grew, so did his profits.
So Black Death is white profits. Say after me, Black Deaths are white profits. I repeat, Black Deaths are white profits. And those who have bought into the system of white supremacy, like Patrice Motsepe, like Cyril Ramaphosa, and all their friends, when they commit genocide or massacre in Marikana, the Black Deaths guarantee white profits. They guarantee white profits. When they commit genocide in the Cape Flats, of allowing guns and drugs for people in Khayelitsha to unalive each other, for people in Hanover Park to unalive each other, for people in Menenberg to unalive each other, for people in Nyanga to unalive each other. That is Black Death and white profit right there. That is Black Death, white profit right there. And political tools like Ugacha Wakabuteles, who get funded by the Afrikaner apartheid government to facilitate a process of Black Death, white profit. And some parts of the ANC themselves, Black Death, white profits. Because then why are the PAC, the APLA veterans still in prison? Why does nobody know about the work of the PAC? Yeah, man, we don't need no bloody ANC, we don't need the IFP, we don't need the MKP, we don't need the EFF right now. We need the truth about our people.
The Congolese historian Elikia Ambokolo believes that the truth about Leopold's crimes was deliberately hidden to protect Belgium and Belgian interests in the Congo. This film details the charges against King Leopold and reveals a cover-up of monumental proportions. The signs of the wealth that Leopold amassed are everywhere in Brussels and on an enormous scale. The king built the Cinquantenaire to celebrate the country's 50th anniversary. It's become part of the national identity.
Thank you
The
for
Cinquantenaire is a
this.
very expressive symbol of Belgium and of the proud Belgium. In fact, King Leopold paid for it with his own money, but he didn't say so openly, because this would prove that, first of all, he had a lot of money. People would...
Nah, guys, I made peace with the fact that the people who are in politics in this country, the people who have been able to get into parliament and benefit from this crime scene called South Africa, they prefer things the way they are, including the ANC, the UDM, the EFF, all of them. The DA, I don't even want to mention the DA, but the DA is the devil. The DA is the bloody devil. Hashatan. Satan. Thank you, Observer. These people prefer it the way things are, because then the populace is dumb and numb. The people of the country are dumb and numb. South African men are drug addicts. Why are South African men not the ones leading in industry? Why are South African men not making waves in the world, coming up with innovations and inventions? South African men are drunk, are high, they're addicted, they're in the streets, they're begging. If they're not, they're so deluded, they're unaliving everything in their way. South African women are busy marrying Somalis, left, right, and center Pakistanis, giving birth to Bo Abdulelihle. There's no agenda amongst the native people of South Africa. We exist for this, and this is our purpose of existence. You'll never win against an enemy that is organized if your sheer purpose of existence is consumption and proving to the next person that you are better than them. If your purpose of existence is to prove to the person next to you that you are better than them, you will never win against an organized enemy, South Africa. Africa. You're busy challenging AfriForum. They will wipe you out because they've studied you for years. You don't even study your own history. I say, Queen Non-Nesi, only 5 people know who that is. Tania, Kabai, only 10, 12, 2% know who that is. I say, Ukiva Kakhoseni, only 1% of people know who that is. But I say Adolf Hitler, everybody knows who that is. So reverse the curse of the education system which came with missionaries, because it's an education system that seeks to teach you white supremacy. Prince Makoma, 1% know who that is. Abakwa Pambata, 1%. Yeah, next thing we'll be having Mohammed Ndlovu, Abdul Masimula, Adeke Adebajo, Tusi, Obiekwe, Makatini. Those will be your presidents now. Those will be your leaders in parliament. They are already leading in business. They are already leading in universities. They are already leading in the financial sector. They are already leading in NGOs. They're like Human Rights Commission. They are already leading, but now they want to lead in parliament. That's the next step now. Already you've got someone called Chikunga. Who's Chikunga in parliament? What is Chikunga? Let's continue. Hey, it seems that way. The Islamic State one. My next live is going to deal with Islam, actually. But I need to start with this one, because Islam is just another variation of white supremacy.
Questions where it came from, and then he would have to admit that it came from the Congo. So the cinquantenaire symbolizes this lie about Belgium and about the royal implication in politics, about the colonial exploitation.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Leopold's Congo was a prison state. Africans had no rights, no justice, and no freedom. They were...
Leopold's Congo is the perfection of apartheid. It's the perfection of Nazism. It is the perfection of fascism, all in one. This is your existence in white supremacy. If you are not white, if you are not white and you are black, let me put it like that. This is your existence in white supremacy. Enhle Mbali, this is your existence in white supremacy. Rorisang, this is your existence in white supremacy. Penwell the Black Pen, this is your existence in white supremacy. Saul Penduka and Meg G, this is your existence in white supremacy. You're busy inviting Rob Herzog and his fellow racists in your platforms. DJ Smoo, this is your position in white supremacy. You can try and be nice, play cool. This is your guys' existence. You guys exist here. This is your absolute position. It is impossible for you to get out of this. Katleho from Citizen Concerned, this is where you belong. Sizwe Dlomo, this is where you bloody belong. Gayton McKenzie, this is where you belong. This is what the position you must occupy in white supremacy. Cyril Ramaphosa, this is your position in white supremacy. White supremacy doesn't play the game of equality. It doesn't play the game of maybes and gray areas. White supremacy is direct and clear. White supremacy is decisive. White supremacy says, I am and you are not. You are and I am not. What you're not going to do in a white supremacy situation, play the game of equality. No, you're going to serve us. That's it. You exist for our enrichment. You exist for our profits. You exist for our entertainment. Just go dance amapiano for us. Go make TikTok challenges for us. Go buy branded things. Go buy Louis Vuitton, who hates you, by the way, the owner of the brand. Go buy Gucci, who hates you, who thinks you are a monkey, by the way. He thinks you are a monkey. Go buy all these European brands. Go buy them. because you exist for their profit. You exist for their enrichment. So you will always subconsciously seek to enrich them. Whether you know it or not is irrelevant. But your existence to them is absolutely immaterial. It is their existence to you that has meaning. Yours to them is meaningless.
There to serve a voracious European king. Thousands of miles away, Leopold was content that the end always justified the means, and the end was to make money. The crown domain, 10 times the size of Belgium, was completely sealed off. But a missionary had managed to get in. Morel got hold of his journal and published the atrocities committed by Charles Massard, a Belgian officer known to the Africans as Malu Malu.
The white man, Malu Malu, I feel ashamed of my color every time I think of him, would stand at the door of the store to receive the rubber.
And you guys, you know how genetics work, ne? Genetics are determined by your parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, couple of generations, but also determined by your environment and their interaction to the environment. So when you talk about genetics, it's not just sex determining. We have 23 chromosomes. There's sex chromosomes, which are in two forms. One form is the Y chromosome, which gives you the Y haplogroup, and the other form is the female chromosome, which gives you the mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA can only come from the mother to a child, whereas Y chromosomes can only come from father to son. The rest of the DNA is known as autosomes, and therefore autosomal DNA. Now, this is the DNA that can carry, yes, Y and X chromosomes. Y chromosome, dad. X chromosome, mother. So these are sex chromosomes, right? And then you have autosomes or autosomal DNA. This is the DNA that carries the rest of your genetic data. Your interactions with your environment, your experiences, do have an impact on your DNA, literally. They do have an impact on how molecules are generated, how hormones are generated, how you react to stimuli and all that. Now think about 400 years of oppression. Think about 400 years of oppression and how that changes the genetic structure, the genetic makeup of a bloodline. And now because there's inheritance of genes, how that affects the following generations. So the stupidity of the black race right now is a scientific reality. And I'm not talking about stupidity in terms of intellectual quotient. I'm not talking about analytical ability, the ability to solve equations. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ability to appreciate truth and reality as it stands. Because you can solve all the equations in the world. You could be the best scientist and still be a fool. Look at Ben Carson, the brain surgeon in America. You could solve all the mathematical equations. But the traumas of your ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors are carried through your genetics. And it is something that our people need to understand. That the experiences of your forefathers, when we talk about them, why do you think you are getting shivers? You think it's just a good story? You think you want to cry when you hear about these things because it's a good story? No! It resonates at a genetic level. Yes, things like IQ and civilizations are not measures, are not absolute measures. They are dependent on very volatile parameters. Like, if today you heard the news that someone close to you has passed away and you didn't eat today and you do an IQ test, your IQ will come probably much lower than in a day where you've been happy for an extended period of time and you've been well nourished for an extended period of time. People who eat well have much higher IQ than people who eat less. People who live in more stressful environments will have lower IQs. So it has nothing to do with intelligence. It's just someone's probably speed at analyzing things. That's it, really. It has to do with exposure as well. So these are just pseudo-scientific measures, like the measuring of the skull's length, the skull's shape that they did. That's why you have people talk about Hamitic garbage and Semitic garbage and what is the other one? Negroid and Caucasoid and Mongoloid, all those nonsensical things. These are pseudo-scientific inventions. But genetics, guys, do carry traumas as well. Now, this is a scientific fact because genetics are not only just transferred from parent to child, they are also based on the interaction with the environment. That's why each child is unique. So our interaction with the environment and with other people, other races over the past 500 years does do something to our genetics. Now think about the descendants of these people in Congo, the people whose hands were cut, the behavioral patterns that were passed down from them to their children. So do you understand the importance of undoing this work is much deeper than people realize? And a huge chunk of this is information and knowledge. But not just information and knowledge, your interaction with information and knowledge. You can't interact with information as a receiver only, but you need to question, you need to analyze, you need to get to a point of independent thought. Let's continue.
From the poor, trembling wretches. One man bringing in under the proper amount. The white man flies into a rage and, seizing a rifle from one of the guards, shoots him dead on the spot. The men who had tried to run from the country and had been caught were brought to the station and made to stand one behind the other as an Albini bullet was sent through them. A pity to waste bullets on such wretches.
Almost as an admission of guilt, Leopold ordered the burning of all incriminating Congo state records. Instead,
that is why then today, people from Congo, people from Nigeria, people from Swahili, the Swahili coast, these people seek whiteness wherever they are. Wherever they are, they seek whiteness, they seek white approval, they seek white validation, almost more than any other groups. Almost more than any other groups. You go to Zanzibar, you're a dark-skinned person. Yo, they don't want you. I just showed you like a few minutes ago, one of their ancestors who was a slave there in Zanzibar.
instead of being hanged, Leopold was reinvented as a great humanitarian king, a great civilizer.
Man, these people are ugly. Just looking at the sheer genetics, you can see this is not a human. It's a machine that was bred for destruction and brutality. Look at the eye ridge. Look at this nose. Oh dear.
In the 17th century, South Africa was colonized by the English and Dutch. English domination of the Dutch descendants, known as Bo.
Oh, by the way, this picture is false. This picture is false. It never happened. This thing. It's just imagination. They always say Jan van der Beek landed on the 6th of April. Not really. The ships were already there on the 6th of April, but they only got out of the ships on the 7th of April. And this is not Jan van der Beek. Jan van der Beek was much uglier. He had a fatter face.
Or Afrikaners resulted in the Dutch establishing the new colonies of the Orange Free State and Transvaal. The discovery of diamonds in these lands around 1900 resulted in an English invasion, which sparked the Boer War. Following independence from England, an uneasy power sharing between the two groups held sway until the 1940s, when the Afrikaner National Party was able to gain a strong majority. Strategists in the National Party invented apartheid as a means to cement their...
Apartheid, remember guys, it's Nazism, Christian nationalism, and fascism all in one.
Control over the economic and social system. Initially, aim of the apartheid was to maintain
Look at their hand gesture.
white domination while extending racial separation. Starting in the 60s, a plan of grand...
You see, this is where now it gets funny, because the victims of Afrikaner Christian nationalism, which is Nazism, white supremacist South Africans will tell a Zulu person who's in the Northwest to go back to KZN. A white supremacist South African who's in the Northwest will tell a Zulu person in the Northwest to go back to KZN. A white supremacist Xhosa person in Gqeberha will not feel ashamed to tell a Xhosa person from Xofimvaba to go back to Transkei. All these names, Bophuthatswana, Siskai, Gazankulu, Kangwane, KwaNdebele, KwaZulu, Libua, Qwaqwa, Transkei, Venda. They take indigenous names, but they set up colonial borders. So they know if they call this place KwaZulu and only this place KwaZulu, you will identify with that, such that if you are anywhere outside of KwaZulu, you feel alienated. So you can only feel comfortable if you are in KwaZulu. Do you understand how colonization operates? If you are closer, you are in what they call Port Alfred in the Eastern Cape, which is Ikoyi and Ikawa. If you are closer and you are in Port Alfred, Ikawa, and the Koyi River is actually Koyi, you will feel uncomfortable because it feels foreign to be here. Because they told you that no, when you come from Xofimvaba, you must stay there. They designed the Bantustans. The Bantustans are not our ancestral lands. They are part of our ancestral lands, but they're not the fullness of our ancestral lands. You go back to the precious archives of the Cape, to the diary of Jan van Riebeeck. They tell you that way before the Dutch arrived, Krotoa and Autumao had seen Xhosa people in the Western, in Cape Town, in places like Paarl and Worcester, amongst the Kainikwa people. Xhosa people were there long before Jan van Riebeeck. It's written in Jan van Riebeeck's diaries. Krotoa, whose real name is Gorotwa, and Autumao, which is Autumao. They tell Jan van Riebeeck, no, I know these people. I've seen them in Paarl, I've seen them in Worcester. They are close allies of the Ainukwa, who were marrying women from the Xhosa kingdom as a form of military alliance. To such a point, they said to Jan van Riebeeck that the Xhosas are actually the kings. And Autumao and his Kamakwa were like, no, Autumao is not, Xhosa are not the kings for us as the Kamakwa. We have an elder here. So there was a battle. The point is, they knew each other. In fact, Autumao and Krotoa told Jan van Riebeeck that if he goes further up, he will find a place with gold, which we believe is Muene Mutapa and Mapungubwe. That's why Jan van Riebeeck went crazy. He went crazy looking for the gold. They didn't discover the gold in the 1800s in Johannesburg. They knew it was there since the 1600s. They were told that it was there. That's why in 1686, Simon van der Stel sends Isaac Schrijver to the Eastern Cape to meet with Uyinsati in what became Aberdeen, which we know is Inqweba. Inqweba means the abundance. Inqwaba, or from the word ukuqweba, to collect things in abundance. Inqweba, because that's where the abundance of Cham people are. The abundance of Gunuqwa, abundance of Chamtos, abundance of Imidange, abundance of nations. In the kingdom of the Grinkwa, Hase people, Amayinzati, today known as Amanqahwane, today known as Amaqhwama, today known as Ostatu, the people of Zahara, the people of Lucanyo Am, The people of Siakolis. Isaac Schrijver was sent in the 1680s by Simon van der Stel, the colored governor of the Cape, whose father was Dutch, but his mother was from Asia. He was sent because he was looking for the gold that he was told about. So when they say they discovered gold in the Witwatersrand, they're lying. They knew it was there all along. They just couldn't find it yet. You reverse the curse of the missionary books. You reverse the curse of the false pseudo-knowledge. You free the minds of the people.
Apartheid was executed, emphasizing territorial separation and police repression. After the National Party gained power in South Africa in 1948, its all-white government immediately began enforcing existing policies of racial segregation under a system of legislation that it called apartheid. Under apartheid, non-white South Africans, a majority of the population, would be forced to live in separate areas from white.
And by the way, in the British colony of the Cape, black people were colored. Slaves from Africa were colored. Asian slaves were colored. Madagascans were colored. Mixed race people were colored. Everyone who was not white was colored. That was the entire meaning of colored. In fact, in America, they did it properly. Properly in terms of the original way. Yes, they did it the original way. In America, if you're not white, you were colored. That's it. It doesn't matter if you are mixed with Indian, you are mixed with this and black and what, you are colored and that's it. That was like that in the Cape Colony, in Eastern Cape, Western Cape and Northern Cape. To this day, you have colored people in modern South Africa who are originally Dlamini, but in their clan names, who are originally Nyati. People don't understand the origin of the term colored. It meant non-white. Yes, people of color. Which is crazy because my mother, when she speaks, she refers to white people as people of color and to black people as brown people, abantu abansundu, dark brown. In the indigenous mind, it's the whites and the other groups that are color. Hey.
And use separate public facilities, and contact between the two groups would be limited. Despite strong and consistent opposition to apartheid within and outside of South Africa, its laws remained in effect for the better part of 50 years. In 1991, the government of President F.W. de Klerk began to repeal most of the legislation that provided the basis for apartheid. South African mines are world leaders in the production of diamonds and gold, as well as strategic metals such as platinum, and this is what the Europeans were after. Again, foreign lands were robbed of its resources, and the thieves go free.
That's very important. That's very important. That's very important. Foreign lands were robbed of the resources and the thieves go free. No. In the Cape Colony, all people who were not white were coloreds. Originally, like anyone who was not white, all the black people, the free blacks of the Cape, the slaves who were freed, everyone, if you're not white, you are colored. That's what colored meant in the Cape Colony. It was then refined to native for Africans, those who were considered as the native people of Africa, so-called black people. 25% of the remaining group now who were not natives were called colored, which was a collection. Yes, I get that. Let me just explain this. The remaining group that was not native, it was a collection of slaves who are mostly from Africa and Asia, mixed race people, and some Cape natives as well, like some indigenous, the remnants of indigenous people of the Cape, many of whom were already called natives. Now the remnants, like 25% of the colored, are definitely Khoi descendant. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Because remember, the Cape is not Cape Town. The Cape is all the three provinces called Cape, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Northern Cape. It's a massive piece of land. It's like the southern part of South Africa. It's true, not all the laws of apartheid were removed. But you know how they like to sanitize history. They love to sanitize history and romanticize it. Not all the laws of apartheid were removed. Some were removed. They came in a different form. But not all. Let's continue.
Wanted the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean, in their words, swept and sanitized. An entire population was declared expendable. All of them were to be deported. The people of the Chagos Islands were secretly and brutally expelled from their homeland by British governments in the late 1960s and early 1970s to make way for an American military base. This island was known as Fantasy Island, and this is where America have a huge military base that had a specific role in the War on Terror and Iraq. The Chagos Islands was once home to 2,000 Creoles, British citizens and loyal subjects who had lived there for at least 200 years.
Do you guys understand how white supremacy is not just a political thing? It's not just a political thing. This video is called, the documentary is called Whited Out 2. Let me show you the documentary if you want to watch it, because I'm done with it now. Whited Out 2, background check on the white man. But do you see how white supremacy is in every part of society? Growing up, I used to watch cartoons a lot. And I couldn't shake seeing how black people or black characters were always caricatured. Black characters were always caricatured. Look at this one, for example. From the Dragon Ball Z. Look at this character called Popo. Look at Popo. Popo is a classical Jim Crow caricature. It's a classical Jim Crow caricature of black people. You know? It's a classical. It's where he's dressed like a Moor with the red lips and the golden earring and the turban. That's a Moorish dress. Nah, that's a black person. You will see. I'll show you something. I'll show you something. Just look at this. The Japanese, they want to be white, those ones. Yo, they want to be white so bad. Look at this. You see this caricature? It is in the same, it borders on the same caricature of Mr. Popo in Dragon Ball Z. It literally borders on the same stereotypes. Big red lips, big white eyes, pitch black skin, and just stupidity and acting like a monkey, you know. And tell you what, there are many black people today who are acting in the exact same way these people have been, you know, creating these caricatures. There are many black people who act in that way. Enhle Mbali being one of them. Doing blackface. You see, they used to call black kids Picanini. Picanini. Black kids were used to be called Picanini. And it's interesting to me that people call the Bandwana Ipikinini. Black people call children Ipikinini. Pikin is a racist word that was used for Negro children. It means tiny ones. It's a racial slur for black children. Little Picaninis. Little Picaninis. Just interesting to me that they will call black kids Picanini. How Picanini when a man? Huh? Picanini. Here it is. It's a racial slur for black children and a pejorative term for Aboriginal children of the Americas, Australia, and New Zealand. You understand? Do you understand? So, the whole thing of Kafir, it shows you how white supremacy transcends politics. It goes into cosmetics. White supremacy goes into culinary standards, how we understand food. Let me show you something. This thing, for example, look at its name. Look at this name. It's called the Kafir lime. Because white supremacy is not limited to politics. It goes into cosmetics. It goes into culinary standards. It goes into culinary. We call this umthala. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see if we can find it in this dictionary of mine. So it's not just, it's food, it's clothing, it's appearance. It's not just politics, it's not just skin color, it's everything. It's everything, guys. It's everything. So when people speak, oh no, guys, you guys must move on. It's in the past, you know. We are all the same now. We are just divided by politics. I'm sorry, but it's not politics that divide us. Far from it. It's not Fikile Mbalula who divided us. Fikile Mbalula is actually, he's a victim who ended up perpetuating the same crimes himself. So now, where do we go from now? Where to from now? Because we can talk about this all we want. The first step is an individual step. You must understand everything you know because they've allowed you to know. Everything you know about yourself, everything you think is your identity, is the only thing that they allowed it to be, except oral history. Generally, the written stuff is what they allowed to be printed. So we do need a movement, JJ. In fact, multiple aligned movements, not one. We need an alliance of movements. Like you have your Solidarity, like you have your AfriForum. So I've begun running a program. It's a 6-month program. I began last month, where I'm teaching these secrets, but deeply focused on language because it breaks the barrier of knowledge. I teach the deep secrets of the language at $250 a month. Immediately when those guys graduate in January, those who have joined, I've got about 13 people who joined. Immediately when they graduate in January, I move them over to a transitional project. After which then they will become members of my movement. Now the goal with this cohort is to transfer as much knowledge such that by next year they will be doing something similar to what I'm doing. We need messengers. We need messengers right now. We need people to spread this message. I've seen a rise in people spreading this message. I'm happy about that. We need more though. Not people who want to go fight Khoisan nonsense there. I'm talking about people who have real knowledge. That's not debatable. Yes, the sessions are virtual. Those who are interested, just inbox me. I will look at your messages and I will give you all the details. The sessions are virtual. We meet every Sunday, 2 hours online on Microsoft Teams. The sessions are recorded and then the guys have access to They have access to a folder that has everything. If you want to learn Khoi languages, you want to learn Nama, you want to see the similarities, I've got like maybe 20 hours worth of audio of Nama, of Chungkwansi, of Kha, of Kui, against isiZulu, against isiXhosa, against Afrikaans, against English. So you can see the alignment in these languages. But I also go deep into clan names. Like last week we did a clan name called Amangoche, which the name Ngoche means battle, by the way. Moma means to consume. Now think about a battle and consumption. These two things go together. I did a session on that. I also touched on clan names such as Amankomose and Aukaba, who are the red cow people, by the way. But anyway, those who are interested can just always inbox me. So we need a movement, a knowledge-based, evidence-based cultural movement, which means it's going to take years to mature. It's going to take years. It needs the boring part of growth, which means where you sit down and actually process the knowledge. The biggest problem with our people is that they want exciting things. So they want videos that make them excited, videos that are just going to fight with Khoisans. Yeah, you Khoisan, Khalad, you Khoisan, yeah, you black West African invader. Both the Khalads and the black people who do this are stupid. Both of you guys are dumb. You Khalads and you black people. You are dumb because you are both victims of the same thing. But when you start to research real history, you're not limited by political structures. You're not limited by apartheid labels. You're not limited by anything because it transcends all those nonsensical ideas. So we need a cultural movement that's gonna seek to restore language to its superior position in our culture. Seek to restore cultural practices, but not just cultural practices that are empty. People must understand why they do certain things. And trust me, once we do that, we're going to open an entire new economy. Because then you're going to have people that are dedicated to making indigenous Zulu clothing, indigenous Xhosa clothing. Imigwetho, inkciyo, izidabane, ingqiba, imidanga, amaphoco, ingqosha, izindwe. Those are indigenous clothing, skins of springbok, skins of hartebeest. We start to understand indigenous time and time tracking, holidays like the full moon and the new moon. We understand inyanga eseyizele, which we call indilinga or imbulunga, the full moon, or the new moon inyanga efileyo, or the waxing moon, iceba or icezu. And we understand our holidays. The structure of the country we live in right now, it's a Christian nationalist structure. You are forced to go on holiday during Easter, but you don't go on holiday during new moon. But in our culture, new moon is a holiday. We don't work on new moon. We don't study on new moon. Yes. You are busy every Saturday. You are going on weekend. It has nothing to do with you, for that matter. So when we restore then the integrity of our way of life, our entire cosmological system, our entire economics, our entire language, our entire sciences, when we restore them, trust me, we'll own the economy like we used to. Because now you're fighting with Adrian Gore of Discovery. You're fighting with the descendants of Alan Gray, Pty Ltd. You're fighting with the founders of Old Mutual for a piece of cake in the financial sector when they've already established it as oligopolies that collude together. You want to have mining licenses. This is a mineral resource complex, a group of mafia companies that have been running this since the colonial times, and you think you're going to win. They'll give you a contract and you'll never speak out again. That's a loss. Worse than not even getting a contract. So what you need is to exist in a state of absolute independence. Poko. Absolute independence with absolutely no association with white nationalism, which is fascism, which is Nazism. You should look at the stories of countries like Singapore and China and how they self-determined, how China managed to lift 600 million of its own citizens out of abject poverty in 20 years. 600 million is South African population times 10 in 20 years. So between 2005 and 2025, China lifted South African people times 10 out of poverty. In South Africa, 60% are still in poverty. Guys, we already have a financial system, indigenous financial system. We know what time value of money is. We know what capital, principal investment, what interest and returns are. We know it. Siyayazi principal yinkunzi. Siyayazi profit yinzala. No. Interest yinzala. I-profit yinzuzo or ingeniso. We know that. We know that loans are generally known as inqoma. Not imali mboleko, inqoma. That's why we say inkomo yenqoma yintsengwe bheka, which means if you are given a cow, when you milk it, you must always know to look back where it comes from. Inkomo yenqoma yintsengwe bheka. So you can't milk a cow that you've been borrowed as if it's yours. It has to go back. So whatever amount that you borrow from a financial provider, the principal needs to go back. But generally it goes back with itole. That is interest. That's what these things are. That's just finance 101. Time value of money. Inkunzi nethokazi zalamathole. Principal investments will bear interest over time. But for them to bear interest, they have to be invested, diversified. Which means you have to take inkomo uyisemadlelweni. Yaluswe inkomo. That is the investment process, the diversification process. In winter, you take it to amadlelo, maybe the Seerfeld, iJojo. In summer, you take it to amadlelo, maybe the Sweetfeld. I forgot the name of the Sweetfeld. It's got a name though. The bank, the asset portfolio is the kraal, isbaya, ubhlanti. That is your asset portfolio. It's diversified, isbaya. Because isbaya used to not have only cows, goats, sheep, and umbona, umbila, eziseleni, or miseleni, dug deep in there. That is the family asset portfolio. That is the asset of the family. So the concept that these systems, like financial systems, we have them. Cosmological system, meteorology, climatology, we have these things. I've been making videos, I've been doing lives about this to show you that we already have mathematics. We know what a point is. We know what a line is. We know what an angle is. We know what shapes are. We understand geometry. What you need now is to refine, remodel, and take advantage of those principles, create things out of that. But no, why? According to Galileo Galilei and Pythagoras. Hey, shut up, man. Pythagoras didn't invent anything. Those things were already known in many ancient cultures. No, Avogadro was constant in physics and Euler's constant. Nazok. Ukhonze umlungu. You don't even do the bare minimum research on where things actually originate. Sithetha ngesikhathi, sithetha ngomkhathi. Space time continuum. We talk about triangles, onqantathu. We talk about squares, amaqande. We talk about rectangles. Isangqa buqande. We talk about circles, izangqa. Talk about ovals, imibhoxo. Parallelograms. Parallel is ngam. The state of being parallel is bunqam. So a parallelogram is simply ingam. Next to each other but never touching. That's what parallel is. So what's lacking? Do you know what's lacking? There's no system of conveying this knowledge. It used to be there around the fire, eziko, but it's no longer there now. So we need to re-establish it. You wanna join my program, my classes? Ping me on the side. You can join. So we begin with language. We need a movement. I need you guys to start using your channels for this. Even if you start small, just something tiny. Don't go too deep. Start where you're comfortable. That's my time, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I am gonna post this on YouTube. Remember the live I once did with Limakara? I talk about Embo there. I talk about Kemet. It was a 5-hour live on the first day. It was a 3-hour live on the second day. Please go to YouTube. I will show you just now to my channel. Sandile Tukani.
Peace family. This is Sandile Wamadzigane Tugani.
That's my channel right there. You go to my channel. This is my channel on YouTube. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Let's get this channel to 2,000 subscribers. If you can, please share the channel. And then you'll see this video is 4 hours 46 minutes. It's 4 hours 46 minutes. This is the video I did on Embo. It speaks deeply about the Golden Meridian. It speaks deeply to Abambo. It speaks deeply to Kemet. This is part 1. Part 2 is going to premiere, I think, on this coming Thursday. So I premiered this one last night, I think, yesterday at like 6 or something. Please go and watch this. Finish it. Take your time, even if you have to finish it over days. Now, guys, if you want to use my content, if you want to cut my videos, share snippets of them, I encourage that. I encourage that you do that. There's a lot of videos here. Most of them are above 2 hours. Majority of them are around 3 hours on average. So this is a wealth of knowledge. This is a wealth of knowledge. The video about the stars, I think I already did. This is part 1. Stars, constellation, seasons, indigenous knowledge. So I will do part 2 for this one. This one, I've already done part 2. So the next live I'm going to do, probably, because you see the one I'm doing right now, the one you guys are in, it's part 2 of this one. I did a deep background check, posted it 7 days ago. So the live I'm doing is part 2 of this one. Now I'm going to do part 2 of this one, which is stars. I've already done part 2 of this one. So yeah, you can expect some lives on the next coming days. Please go and subscribe, share the channel. Kusandile ke lona. Usandile isizwe samamfene. Itholele inkunzi zasemamfeneni. Amamfene ke ngabantu bakwaLuncu, bakwaMwandla, bakwaMandu afikela uhlangeni. Amamfene ngabantu bakwaMayikana, bakwaVimbisa, bakwaGeqa amatye. Abantu bekupheka iphemphem ngenqawana, bekupheka iqhakuba ngenqawana. Abantu bokurhwala emgodleni. Abantu bokwehla emgedzeni ngobulembu. Mina ndingumfene, ndinguhlathi, ndingujambasi, ndingulisa, ndingucanzi, ndingusanzanza, ndinguhlanga omvelweni. Ndingusiduli, ungube emhlophe. Ndingubeka etyeni ityiwe zimbovane umahamba ngezandla usandlalanqa uphala kuhle ngoba le ndlela iyehlela. Ndingumabona wabulawe njengomthakathi. Ndinguntsilane mna ubhushulaze wakwabhulashe. Ndingubhorhom undlazana unoni. Ndingutlaba mkhosi. Ndizalwa emanzothweni koonyelenzi koomaphango koongqale koongqange ngqangqasini koogquqa koqham kowele kontsibankulu kayuthu kontaba kahili konabele emntwini osiqa somelezwa zintshaba kokhawuta kagcaleka sihlobo sikakhawuta sihlobo sikagcaleka. Oyini bafazi bentsikizi le ntsholo nayiphazama nithi abathi isidoda kodwa le ngoma ihlatyelwa isifazi. Liyobe phambili impunzi ngasemva ngumtya nethunga intombi yasemanzothweni enzalayo. Ziinkomo zikambiko zikamancamu zikamlawu. Zukulwana ke mna ke emampehleni kocabashi konkomo zibomvu. Kodikana kolubisi. Inkomo zakuloyibeka wakulokani. Mzukulwane emantlaneni kontlanga konqabane. Ngofako ke abo oziqelekazi onqunqusho ohlamba ngobenda amanzi ekhona. Ndibuye besisukuzuko onyawuza ngqo. Ndibuye besisukuzuko ematshaweni. Ndibesisukuzuko ematshaweni. Amatshawe ke ngotshiwo ngomdange ngokhawuta ngogcaleka. Inkomo zikarharhabe utsinga kanomagwayi wasembo. Uzamazama ilizwe lizamazame usibala mdaka usambatha zimfutshane kanti zomlingana kube izinto uthi zimfihla amadolo. Ndizisukuzuku komagcina konantsika koncancashe. Komalamba yendla yodla inyamakazi athi ziziduli zamathafa. Ndizisukuzuku kotyhopho konokwindla. Ndiyanqula ke kongqosini kothithiba konozinga abantu bomlambo. Mbokotho umnyama kaThikoloshe eqenqgeleka isehlise enyuka phezu komlambo igqili. Ndiyanqula ke kodlamini. Inkomo zikajama, inkomo zikasijadu. Inkomo zikangqibinoboya wena wakafakade zize limnyama nenkomo zalo. Awu, into ezawela ithukela zawela ngenkomo zabuye zayidla leyaziwelisa. Nina bawelele esandlulubeni. Ndithi camagu ke kumagiqwa komva bayiketile komnqayila inqindi. Kontshingwa ikhwazwa ngabayaziyo. Ngonkosana abo. Angababizanga ke bangaqumbi baqalekise. Xa nditshoyo ke nditsho ukuzazi ndiyacamnca, ndiyacangcatha, ndiyacengceleza ndinqula ndithi makube chosi kube hele. Amagu. Thank you guys. Now, where do I stop this live? Oh, thank you. Bye bye guys.